Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Well, you go to the Raiders at 6. The Raiders give you their second round pick, so you package them the so you pick it then at 6. You take Campbell or Genty, package the 2 second rounders that you now have
to go up 20 spots.
Maybe not quite 20, but work with me here, Evan.
I'm trying.
No,
but
Evan, don't let the facts get in the way.
What he's saying is you have the quarterback, so you don't have to worry about.
I got to channel Paul here, because Paul would go, do they? I think they got to tap that class. They also got to tap the front 7 class.
Tap that class.
Tap that class.
Jake wants to know if I've received my Our Lads guide yet. No, I think they're going into print next week. You know, the day it comes out, you print it out.
You know, Fred's standing in front of the printer for like 40 minutes.
Tony suggests the Foxy Lady.
Oh.
Okay. All right.
My cousin used to work there.
On stage or off stage?
No comment, but
Okay. Wow.
She was there.
And now, put your hands together for Lady Deuce.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium, and we're fully into free agency. We're getting ready for the draft. It's exciting. Got owners meetings coming up. Those are always fun. So it's fun. Lots of stuff to talk about. It's Evan, it's Paul, it's Deuce, it's me, it's Matt in the booth, and we'll be here until 2 o'clock talking Patriots and whatever else we want to talk about. Yeah. So Christian Ellis back in the fold, reportedly. They've matched the offer that the Raiders gave him. Yeah. So every
bumping it up a little bit.
A lot of linebackers. I would say we're good with linebackers, right? At this
I
point?
would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them are the same. I just started off with I would think so, Fred. Sorry about that.
I told Deuce I am forbidding him for using I think when he is.
I think jar. I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
basically.
I'm a big I think guy too, dude.
I'm trying
no
not
more
to
I
think.
think.
I think we all are.
All right.
I'm surprised that they re-signed Christian Ellis. I thought that they had signed a couple free agent linebackers, and those guys seem to fit that mold. Maybe they like him as a special teams guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if some people are saying he's Mike Vrabel's type of linebacker, and I don't know if I believe that's the case, that he has him targeted to play on defense so much as depth.
Just say
and
that
special teams.
I'm a little cautious about, because I've heard a lot of different guys or Mike Vrabel type of fill in the blank position, and just curious as to how that sort of became a thing.
Yeah.
Like, have you not? Am I
He's
the only
tough
one?
and he's versatile.
Yeah.
Am I the only one hearing that? A lot of people are describing different even like prospective draft picks, like Mike Vrabel kind of players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to learn more about Mike Vrabel, the coach.
He's not going to play much his first 4 years. Then he'll go somewhere else and be a starter.
Well, I think it's a body type thing at linebacker. I feel like that people are gravitating towards, just to answer your question. You know.
Yeah, I'm talking about all positions.
Yeah, but the linebacker.
All I worry is Drake May his type of quarterback? If the answer is yes, then let's go.
I'd hope so.
I would say that Will Campbell reminds me of Tyler Lewan.
I've heard Will Campbell described as a Mike Vrabel type of player, just as an example.
Right,
like, I know what you're talking about with
tough
size.
Guy.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think our buddy Mike Giardi had a story about Jawan Bentley just sort of alluding to him having dropped some weight, being down in the 230s. That would sort of line up with what everyone was just about to say about the style of linebacker I think Vrabel is looking for, as opposed to the big 250-plus pound guys that Belichick gravitated
Speaking of losing weight, Will Campbell seems to have gained a little weight. He said he weighed in at 306 at his pro day.
I think that was. That's not losing weight, is it?
Are you confusing him with Mason Graham?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Mason Graham's the one who was under 300 at the combine.
Yeah, Mason Graham ate some cheeseburgers.
Okay.
Some Wheaties.
So
don't worry, everybody. I only took one show off. I'm
that's
back,
okay.
and I speak
Fred.
Fred.
With Will so since he's had his pro day, did they measure his arms?
Yeah, so there's a lot of scuttlebutt about the arms right now.
Oh,
a lot of scuttlebutt about the arms because the
LSU measured the arms in
35
and a half.
This way, if they came in over 34, we know about it.
So here's the deal: the arm length measurements at the Senior Bowl and at the Shrine Bowl were for some reason different than the arm length measurements at the combine. So whoever measured the arm lengths at the combine, they are bringing into question whether or not that was accurate across the board. Like, not just with Will Campbell, everybody. So, like, Ozzie Trapilo, who I saw yesterday at Boston College, he measured in at 33.5 at the Senior Bowl, then somehow lost a half an inch in his arm length at the combine. He measured 33 flat at the combine. So,
who would have incentive
Well, no,
to do one or the other?
If the methodology is just
No, it
different.
could be as honest as that.
Yeah.
But who would have incentive if there were something, untoward going on? The Senior Bowl people are pumping up their guys.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's
The
possible.
combine doesn't care who. I mean, there's 300 guys invited to the combine. They don't care which
So
ones
what
go
was
where.
his measurement in his pro day?
Oh, we don't know. But
Why?
the point that I was trying to get to, Paul,
Evan didn't do it.
is that
You were at the pro
I
day.
think that there's a lot of teams that are going to actually measure themselves, because I don't think that there's too much inconsistency with the numbers from the college, all-star games to the combine.
Yeah, this
Can
is
I
giving
just-
me
let me-
more of a headache than
Sounds like
deflating.
somebody-
And you obviously can't take you
this
can't
is like
you can't take the
the
pro day.
pressure valves
Like,
at Deflategate.
you can't take the pro day numbers.
It's like
at
Ted
face value.
McMillan's 40 at his pro day.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a 40 I can see, because if you're doing it on a stopwatch, I can see that you're a tenth off or whatever. But a tape measure is a tape measure.
It should be.
Yeah.
It was my understanding that there would be no
I'm
Were
math.
the
just telling
measurements
you.
off at the Shrine Bowl as well as the Senior Bowl?
Yes, so the measurements
So,
are,
you know,
and it's
are
and
both those-
again, it's not consistent whether it's short or long, right? Like we're going all over the place. Like some guys came in shorter at the combine.
For the love of
Some
God.
guys came in right. So
Where were they measuring from?
that at this point, and I'm being dead serious, at this point when it comes to Will Campbell, the Patriots are going to have to host Will Campbell on a 30 visit and measure his freaking arms.
I
I'm
can-
going
I
to tell
can-
you, can
I
I
can
just
just-
say one thing
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
don't want to hear? If the Patriots think Will Campbell can play tackle, regardless of the length of his arms, they can convince me on this, and I'll wait and see, and hopefully they'll be right, and I'll have no issue with that. If the Patriots draft Will Campbell because they said they had him in on his pro day and they actually measured his arms and they're really X, I'm going to be sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
That they're just trying to convince themselves that the arms are long enough.
Yeah.
Again, if you think that he can play with those, what is it, 33 and
33 and
5/8?
5/8.
No,
if you-
32 and 5 is.
32 and 5,
32 and
sorry,
5,
32
I'm
and
sorry.
5.
It's a lot of math. It's okay.
Right. If they're convinced that that's not a deal breaker, he's good enough, he can do it, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm not okay if they just say, well, the combine's wrong.
Right.
We're
Well,
right.
So apparently, believe it was Greg Bedard that reported this, said that last year in the spring, they measured his arms at 32 and 7/8. And then at the combine, he was 32 and 5/8. So now we have that measurements out there that was also put out there by Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl that he was 32 and 7/8. The combine comes in shorter at 32 and 5/8. No one knows what the right answer
I
is.
can just see like the first scrum that Will Campbell's available.
Yeah.
Bedard
funny.
sidles up next to him, and he's got like a measurement and trying to get it
It's-
on his own.
It's I've
You go up
never
Yeah, yeah, right.
I've never seen anything like
Campbell's
it.
like, "What are you doing?"
I agree with Evan. I don't ever remember anything
I've been
like
following
this.
the draft my whole life, and I have never seen anything like this with the whole topic. Like when it comes to now, all of a sudden we're experts on wingspan, we're experts
So
on
if you
arm
were Will
length, like the
Campbell
whole
and you
thing.
knew that you had 33-inch arms, would you just have a public demonstration of a measurement and just say,
Right.
"Screw all of you. Here it is. If you want me, take me. If you don't, don't."
It is funny that such a mundane thing can so grossly impact a guy's future.
We're talking like
Inches.
Millions of
eighths
dollars.
of inches.
Yeah. Right.
Because going forward, even if he's a great guard, he won't make what he could make as a great tackle.
Right.
Like,
Think
what is it?
about that.
3/8 of an inch or 5/8 of an inch are the difference in millions of dollars,
I mean,
potentially.
It's the difference of him being a lock in the top 5 and not being a lock. Like if he had 33 plus inch arms, he'd be a lock top.
But
5
even if he
pick.
ends up going in the top 10,
yeah,
that won't cost them that much in the
in the
in
short
the
term.
immediate short term. But down the road, if he's a guard and guards make a lot of money too. We don't need to have a bake sale for Will Campbell. If he turns out to be Quentin Nelson, he's going to make a lot of money, whether it's guard or tackle. But left tackles make more than left guards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And eventually that will be all over, 3/8 of an inch. It's kind of crazy.
He's going to follow his whole career.
Crazy
What
when
do
you think of that.
So, when you watch the tape,
Yeah.
is it evident that, this guy could use longer arms? Or is it even not an issue? And if it's not an issue, then why is it an issue now?
Yes and no. I think it's
See, I can't even get a straight answer out of this.
because I think it's evident if you want to look for it, right? Like, and if there's things that there's 1 or 2 reps a game where you say to yourself, did he lose that block because his arms aren't long enough? But then there's 68 other blocks in the game where he's perfectly fine. So that's offensive line, though, right? All it takes is for you to get the quarterback strip sacked once, and you've had a bad game. So,
I think it would be more of an issue if this guy was like coming from some small school.
I agree.
But
the
he's
fact that
coming
he
from
played
the-
at LSU gives me hope. I agree with Fred.
The competition's good, so at least you know that. He was going up against guys who were, future NFLers. That should give you a little bit of comfort.
absolutely. I mean, there's tape against him against pretty much every top SEC edge rusher in this class. Shamar Stewart, Kyle Kennard, Nick Scorton, like all the way down.
So if I'm Elliott and I'm Vrabel, I'm going to Marone and Dante Scarnecchia and go, should we take this guy?
Yeah.
And if they say yes, take him.
And Doug Marone was there yesterday, too.
Yeah, Doug Marone
BC.
was there yesterday. He was locked in.
Yeah.
Locked in to Ozzie Trapillo's workout. It seems like he likes him some Ozzie.
Yeah.
Big kid, athletic.
I like him later in the draft.
3rd round.
Day
pick.
2.
He's
Yeah,
a
day 2 guy.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
think he's day 2?
That's
Yeah.
where, I don't think that. Everybody, I don't not think that. I'm just going by what people are projecting.
Yeah.
I don't rank them.
Yeah.
Bill taught me that.
I think he might be he could be a top 75 pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want him. If I take Campbell, I don't know if I want to take a 3rd round on another lineman.
Yeah, well,
That's fair.
we should talk about the Mass Live reporting that Elliott Wolf over the weekend at an event suggested definitively that they maybe focused a little bit too much on position last year and they won't do that this year. It's more best player available. But I think that is so widely misunderstood. I think you always want to get the best player available. But there's limits to that, and there are positions that are not conducive to being taken. You don't take the best quarterback available at 4.
Right.
If you're the Patriots.
Right.
If he's the best player available, obviously you'd have Drake
We
May.
need a kicker.
So I think there is an argument to be made. Block your ears.
It's
Evan.
always a blend.
That Deuce's, mock draft theory that he's been roundly, teased about. I wouldn't say criticized. I would say teased.
Yeah, sure.
You can make an argument Ashton Genty might be the best player available. You can make an argument that Tyler Warren might be the best player available. I like the 2 Georgia guys that Evan and Mike have been talking to me about for weeks now. The 2 front 7 guys from Georgia. I like the idea of continuing to fish in that well of Georgia defensive players. Almost all of them have panned out. Not all of them, but almost all of them have panned out in the NFL. That's a good defense, and those guys seem ready to play right away. So Williams and Walker, I'd be interested in either one of those 2 guys.
For sure. It's funny how the mock drafts go in waves. I came back from the combine and felt like no hope for Carter or Hunter, but now I feel like I have a little.
Well, everybody's
Hunter.
everybody's mock draft has one of those guys to the Patriots now.
Yeah.
Which one would you want?
Our lads had a mock draft that came out yesterday. They had us taking Abdul Carter at 4.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of those.
Yeah.
Giardi today.
Yeah.
Our buddy Mike Giardi, Boston Sports Journal, had Abdul Carter.
I'm a little
Oh,
torn.
no, wait.
No.
Maybe I got it wrong. They had us taking Will Campbell at 4, and Abdul Carter was available, and he was taken at 5.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, but I don't see Abdul Carter being available after, at 4 either. And I've seen a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can pass up on Carter or Hunter if you're the Patriots.
Can't.
I agree.
It's gotten a little harder
Really,
for me
any
to pick.
team if you're not picking a quarterback.
Right,
That's the problem.
But the first 3 all could take a quarterback,
Right.
and I could understand them passing up on one of those 2 guys.
Right.
I wouldn't if I were them, but I can. Tennessee, Cleveland, and the Giants None of them has a starting quarterback.
The Titans are drafting Cam Ward.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the videos that came from his pro day yesterday of him with Callahan and the GM there in Tennessee. I mean, they were chopping it up.
I guess, but again, could smokescreen. You don't know.
I mean, they've spent all of free agency rebuilding their offensive line, and now they are chumming it up with him at the pro day.
Okay.
I just can't. I mean,
but maybe they want the world to think that they're taking him.
They have
and then
the
they
number
get
one
a king's
overall?
ransom, and
Maybe, I don't know. No, when you have the number one overall pick, like these things are usually you have control of the draft, so there's no reason.
I don't know. I think there's a big difference between Caleb Williams and Cam Ward.
Oh, I do too.
I agree,
Yeah.
but
That's why I wouldn't take him.
Right.
I think it's a done deal.
Okay. I hope so.
I think Evan's right, but I wouldn't take him.
I
But
hope
that doesn't
so.
mean anything, like because the Patriots still need Shador Sanders to go in the top 3.
I know.
Right. So it's really that's all well and good, but Cam Ward's going in the top 3. That's a lock. It's if 2 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 3 is the question.
Somebody was speculating: is Jalen Milroe moving up
To the
maybe
third round?
Yeah, maybe in the second round. Yeah.
bottom of the first?
No, his 40 time was special.
Yeah.
No, and that's a special ability as a running quarterback. I was talking to my brother about this. I always work things out with Rich ahead of time. I have my pre-show with Rich, and he was like, if you had told me that Jalen Hurts would be as good an NFL passer as he's been, not that he's a great passer in the NFL, but as good as he has been, I would have never believed you. So who's to say that Jalen Milroe can't develop into at least a serviceable passer to go along with what is obviously special ability to run?
Right.
He's a stronger arm.
So
than
if Kyle needed a quarterback right now, who do you think he'd have his eye on?
Will Howard,
Really?
someone like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you'd like Shador a little bit too, but he's looking for somebody that's going to press the right button on the controller. He's not looking for somebody that colors outside the lines.
Okay.
You run my system. This is my offense. You run my system.
But I thought his system was very quarterback friendly.
Yeah, because it's so easy for the quarterback to make decisions from the pocket in the system. So you don't necessarily need the quarterback to drive the bus. You need the quarterback
So
to just
Jalen Milroe?
not screw it up. I don't think that would be his type. No.
No.
Well,
He just got
he
Mac
did.
Jones.
He did take Trey Lance.
No, he
Now,
didn't.
you're going to blame this on the.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
I did. That was Paul throwing a grenade.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I knew that was coming.
Okay.
Paul,
See that scoffing look? I knew that was coming.
just going back to that report from Karen, I wonder if they got so maniacally focused on receiver and tackle after May that they were
I'm
too
so glad you brought
focused on those two guys, and we all were too.
So can I ask
in
a
the
question?
lead-up.
And if you guys disagree with me, feel free. We can talk about it for 15 minutes, and I'll end up in an argument with Fred about something random.
Okay.
I think you can draft for need and draft the best player at the same time. I don't think the problem was the positions they targeted. The problem was the player they took.
Right.
If they had drafted Ladd McConkey, would people be saying, that's what happens when you draft for need? They needed a wide receiver, and wide receivers were in that area. He took the wrong one.
Right. Nobody complained about the position.
No.
But now we had a bad draft because we focused too much. It's an excuse.
Yeah.
It's an excuse for a bad draft.
Yeah.
They didn't draft just because of need and get the wrong guys. They drafted the wrong guys.
Yeah.
There were tackles available that they could have moved up into the bottom of the first round. They chose not to do it. Okay, take a wide receiver. You also need a wide receiver. You took the wrong one.
Yeah.
This isn't about need versus best player available. It's about bad evaluation.
Right.
That's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. He's trying to
I'm
convince.
a little
Yeah,
upset. I thought we could get an argument out of that.
He's
No,
trying to
'cause
convince us that the urgency to get the need
Led to bad
precluded
picks.
them from looking at other guys who.
Correct.
You
I
know.
think it's an excuse.
Yeah.
Because if they had drafted Ladd McConkey, I don't think any of us would be saying that's what happens when you draft for need. Fred was all over Ladd McConkey a year ahead of time.
Years ago. Years
Back in the
ago.
envelope.
Child and
Years
Pop
ago.
Warner.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
it
mean,
makes me think
he was
about-
almost as high on Slade Bolden.
Makes me think about Will Campbell though. Is Will Campbell the need? Is he the best player available though?
Yeah.
Like that, you kind of make that same decision
Right.
again. I feel.
And I would say if you drafted Will Campbell, that's a pick for need. If he works out, he works out. But if he doesn't, it's not like you picked the wrong tackle. He's the best tackle on the board, right? Everybody agrees that he's the best player at that position.
Yeah.
Whether or not he can play tackle at the NFL remains to be seen.
If Tyler Warren, if Mason Graham are on the board and you pick Campbell,
that's a pick for need.
I think so.
And it doesn't need to be wrong.
Right.
Like, I could give you a million examples of the Patriots picking for need and having it be a slam
But
dunk.
why is it a pick for need? Like, I think if you ask 10 different people, Carter and Hunter are off the board, who are you taking at 4? You get 10 different answers in a draft like this. So there's a very good case for Will Campbell being the best player available, better than Mason Graham or Tyler Warren.
You could make that case. I wouldn't, but you could.
In this draft, I think that you could.
But you need to isolate it because a lot of times people are giving you that answer based on who's picking 4th. You need to just say if Carter and Hunter, what's his name, Hunter, are off the board, who's the best player? Who's the 3rd best player in this draft?
Well, most people would say Genty.
Okay.
But like the point is that
that's.
But Evan's point is you could ask 10 people that question and get 8 different answers.
No, I know, but is Will Campbell one of those 8 answers?
Yeah,
probably.
Will Campbell.
That's what I'm trying to
Mason
get at.
Graham, Tet McMillan, Tyler Warren, the 2 Georgia guys. If anybody said any of those guys were the next best player in the draft, I wouldn't necessarily argue with them.
And that's why I think when people say that's what happens when teams draft for need, it's always a negative. And I don't think it's a negative all the time. I think it always comes down to evaluation. You need to get good players. If I think a pick that you could argue was a bad pick based on need was Cole Strange.
Yeah.
For Bill Belichick. Oof. They needed a guard, and you reach for a guard in the first round. It's a position that's not generally taken in the first round. And it was a guy, it was a guy that wasn't really slated to go in the first round.
There's no doubt they needed it.
But I'll give you, go back several years, go back 20 plus years. They could not stop the run in 2002. It ultimately was the reason why they couldn't go back to back. They could not stop anybody from running the ball. They needed to get some bulk up front. They draft Ty Warren. That is a need pick. It's a good pick because you needed it, and he was a good player.
Yeah.
If he ended up being a defensive lineman like Dominic Easley, or Ron Brace was a better comp because he's more of a run-stuffing defensive lineman who wasn't all that good, then everybody's saying, well, that's what happens when you draft. No, it's all about evaluation, regardless of the positions you take.
Right.
And I just feel like we get lost in the
picking
bad
N'Keal
teams
Harry,
do it for need.
Picking N'Keal Harry, the position was fine.
If they had drafted DK Metcalf or Terry McLaurin or
A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel,
any of those wide receivers that were far better than him after that, no one would have said that's what happens when you draft for need.
Right.
Yeah. The biggest position with this is quarterback, though, to me. We're talking about Cam Ward. Is he the best player available at 1 overall? And that's a position where
quarterback
you have
is
to
the exception.
reach a little bit, right?
Quarterback is the exception that when you almost always when you take a quarterback, it's a need.
One.
Yeah. It's a need pick.
I just feel like this is like, this gets back to you have to have a role that you envision for a player when you take 4 overall, that he's going to be able to blossom into a franchise cornerstone type player with a pick that high.
Yeah.
And if you have guys that are already, talk about tight end with Tyler Warren. Is Tyler Warren a better tight end than Hunter Henry? He might be. But they have players that are veteran players ahead of him on that depth chart that now all of a sudden that becomes a very crowded room, and how do you sort those types of things out? So I think that people misconstrue that as need, but to me it's what's the vision of the player? How does he fit into the football team? How
There's
does
a lot that goes
into
into
that was
it.
very prevalent during the Belichick years. Because let's face it, they had a lot of really good veterans, knew how to win, fit with what Belichick wanted to do. And so a lot of his picks were based on that. Like, I could pick him, but he's not going to make the team anyway, so I might as well just go get this guy. I think you saw a lot of that during Belichick's years.
You just don't want to have redundancies across the roster.
Yeah.
Like if you take Mason Graham, he might be the best player available, but now you have 2 295-pound interior rushers. And so how are you going to play Mason Graham and Milton Williams off of each other on first and second down? And does that mean that Mason Graham isn't going to play as much? So now that you wasted the 4th overall pick on a rotational pass rusher, like that's not what you want out of that pick either. So you just have to have a plan of, how are we going to use this player in a high volume capacity that's going to get the most out of the pick.
You have to stack your board.
vertically
horizontally and vertically.
Yes.
Because it's just easy
I could
to
talk
sit here
about
and say
this part of the draft. I could talk about forever, like just sort of trying to weigh the pros and cons of concepts as opposed to 33 or 32-inch arms. You know what I mean? What benefits you the most, both in the short and long term? And Bill,
If the guy
often
works, whoever
did it
he
in the
is,
long
what
term.
benefits us the most?
Right?
Yeah.
To your point, Bill often drafted with the long term in mind.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we have, Keith Traylor replacing Ted Washington at nose tackle. We don't have an immediate need there, but Vince Wilfork is available at 21. Long term, that's going to be a really good pick for us, right? They didn't have to have that at the time, but recognition of the talent and
You could afford to do that then.
the spot that you're in.
Right.
That's how you draft a guy like Gronk in the second round. There's a lot of teams in the league that would not be able to make that pick. A guy who did not play at all his last year at Arizona. If you're like Joe Shane and Brian Daboll right now, you can't make that pick. You can't, because you can't make that risk that you're going to draft a guy and get nothing out of him his rookie year.
I can barely draft Sanders right now, like with,
Right?
with the hot seat they're on.
So there's a lot of I could talk about that kind of aspect of the draft forever. That's what I like about the first round draft show the most, is sort of identifying what the teams might be thinking.
I find myself going back, though, thinking about Bill's old scouting methods, which, I know Elliot Wolf said they changed last year or have been in process of changing, but I remember Bill's scouting system was very specific to the team and how the player would fit in and exactly what role they would fill and how they would stack up, which to me sounds like common sense way to approach it, but I know that there are different ways to do it, and
somehow that's been deemed to be a negative.
Right, well,
I agree.
What do you get? What getting away from that? What are you getting to? Like, how are you reevaluating? I think you'd want to get to a place where you're not really thinking about the need anymore.
You think they'll get to a place?
No, I like the way Mike is talking there, and going back to what Evan, we led the show off when Evan was explaining to me about the different linebackers that Vrabel might necessarily gravitate toward, right? Doesn't that make sense? I don't need a Brandon Spikes kind of guy because Vrabel doesn't really want those kinds of guys. Right. Isn't that like the essence of scouting for a team?
Right. And you don't want to give Brandon Spikes to a coach that doesn't want to coach him the way he needs to be coached.
That gets to the whole conversation of whoever the GM is, knowing what the coach wants and scouting toward, what he wants.
Right, and that's why, to go back to the best player available thing, all 32 teams have different boards because they're looking for different things. They're looking for different skill sets. They're looking for different scheme fits and different types of, attitudes and things like that. So you can sit there and say that you think in a vacuum that Mason Graham's a better player than Will Campbell or Will Campbell's a better player or whatever, but it's very team specific when you really get down to it. So you can't give Josh McDaniels a receiver that doesn't fit the offense that he wants to run. Now, if it's Calvin Johnson, he fits every offense. But when we're talking about, the rudimentary receivers, you have to give him guys that he is going to be able to unlock and use properly. So when I just don't think that best player available is kind of a myth because it depends on the beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Well, that you can also say no matter who you pick, well, he was the best player in my eyes.
Right. Doing what's in the best interest of the team.
Yeah, and when you go to the whole system thing, and I agree with Evan again on that, there are certain guys that might fit better in certain systems. Now, I think it's smart to go in that direction, but it's also important, and I think it's worthy of criticism if, like, Bill Belichick sort of at the end, I think was kind of so set in his ways that he was unbending to change the system, especially defensively, that he was only interested in a certain amount of guys, and they were becoming harder and harder to identify and find and put into put into his system. So you can make a criticism, like to use Evan's example of Josh's type of receiver. You can criticize Josh for saying, well, yeah, if you had Calvin Johnson, you should be able to find a way, even though he's not really your kind of receiver.
Figure it out.
You should be able to identify the talent and be able to work it. If your system is so unbending that it doesn't utilize...
Then the problem's your system,
correct,
not the player.
Right.
That's a fair criticism, but I think teams should absolutely stack boards with their type of player in mind.
Sure.
That they think fits best in their system. Penetrating defensive linemen now, evidently, as opposed to two gapping run stuffers.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want a tackle that's better in a downhill run scheme? Do you want a zone blocking tackle? Do you want running back that's going to be in a spread offense? Do you want a battering ram running back? Like, it just all across the board. It just depends on what you're trying to accomplish as a team.
Another thing I want to bring up, and I'm seeing on one of Paul's shows, they're talking about this thing Brady came out with yesterday about why he left the Patriots and that the split between him and Belichick was inevitable. What did you think about that?
I didn't actually get to see it. I was just catching up here on.
You didn't read it?
Printed. No, I didn't see it yesterday.
Yeah,
I saw it, Fred.
Yeah,
I did show prep.
That's when you were doing your show prep with your brother. You talked about it. And
I didn't do that. That didn't come up in show prep. That was this morning. I didn't see that until
yeah,
this
he was
morning
talking about at the
on
end.
the Twitter machine.
There was really two parts. It was why he
there.
left and why he picked Tampa Bay. But the first part I thought was the most interesting to me is he was saying that I had to leave. I had to leave, that we had grown so far apart, he and Belichick, that it was just inevitable. I had to go.
The last 2 or 3 years, he said it was kind of.
And I just thought that was
pointing
curious that he's coming out with that.
5-year anniversary, is that why?
So I think it's really curious. Yes, I think it's really curious that he seems to continue these kinds of things unprovoked.
Yeah.
And I wonder why. I mean, is he? I don't know. I also thought he had this whole thing of he ranked about 20 different things.
Yeah.
And you know
about why he left.
A scale to 1 to 3 of the pros and cons of staying and going, and practice weather was important, game weather was important. He had those separated. The game weather was only a 2.
I saw that. That's
but practice
right?
weather is a 3.
Right.
Yeah, targets.
For games.
The weapons that he had.
Yeah.
With Evans and Godwin,
Yeah.
he considered that a 3. Arians, he considered a 3. Even though he ended up coaching the team. But this is where and the Tom Brady stuff. Like I'm not like Mike. I don't have this deep sort of underlying
Hatred.
lack of appreciation for Tom Brady. Money.
Mike.
Yeah, money wasn't even in the top 10.
Money wasn't. I mean, that wasn't really in the top 10. That is such bull. That is such bull.
That's kind of what started why he wanted to leave here. He just
Correct.
didn't feel he was being respected.
He wasn't appreciated.
He wanted a
People like
longer-term
Mike
contract.
pushed him out of town.
Right.
Mike.
That's fine.
How could you?
Pretty good.
No, didn't you get the same impression when you read that? Money wasn't important.
Yeah.
Really, Tom?
Yeah.
Go ask Mr. Kraft.
Now he'll
Money wasn't
clarify and
important.
he'll say, "Well, the money wasn't important to where I was going." But come on, if it was important here, why wouldn't it be important?
Of course,
there?
it was important, and I'm not blaming him for it being important. No, I'm blaming him for not admitting it was important.
Right.
Are we going to be like 20 years from now and we're still going to have Brady talking about him leaving the Patriots?
Sure.
No,
How many more times do we have to do
But I
this?
think Brady's doing this.
Yeah,
I'm not blaming anybody.
Yeah.
No,
I'm just saying.
You keep bringing it up.
I have no interest
But
anymore.
like,
in this
I would just,
topic.
I'm kind of with Evan on this, but I don't really understand. Is he that needy that he needs to like sort of inject himself into the limelight at all times?
Yeah.
It's weird to me.
I wouldn't
that was
necessarily
weird
go
to me.
there. I'm just going like I kind of know the story. Like we've heard it. We know. We get it. It's been 5 years.
It's old wounds.
We can move on.
I don't have
That's
any
it.
of that. I just find it odd that he continues to talk about himself
No.
that way.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I just thought I'd bring that up. Okay. Anything else
Good
before
job,
we
Fred. Good facilitation.
open it up to the listeners?
A little quiet
It
these
was a
days.
cool day yesterday at BC.
Yeah.
It was
you
fun.
were at the pro day.
Yeah, I was at Boston College yesterday. Patriots Palooza is
Yeah.
what I would call it. Mike Vrabel was there. Elliot Wolf, Ryan Cowden, Doug
How many other
Marrone.
teams?
All 32 teams were represented.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Vrabel was the only head coach. But some cool moments with Bill O'Brien, and obviously with Vrabel being tight with him, and Marrone too. Marrone's really tight
For
with Bill
other
O'Brien
teams,
also.
who was the big attraction?
Well, Azarelko didn't do anything, so I would say the linemen, Trapillo and Kendall, their center, is draftable center as well. So yeah, the Donovan Azaruku, who's their pass rusher, is going to go first round. He did the Senior Bowl, he did the Combine, so he just sat out the day. But I thought what O'Brien said was interesting was a lot of the reason why teams come to things like pro days is actually what happens before and after the pro day. They take them out to dinner, they kind of get them in a social setting, see what the kid's all about, that sort of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if Azaruko had a lot of meetings with teams, even though he didn't work out at the pro day. But
how many teams would you say were there?
All 32 were represented.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes you just send scouts,
Sure.
to not necessarily
that's
GMs, but
that's good for BC.
Yeah, and it was good. I think this connection between the BC and the Patriots, now that Vrabel and O'Brien are the two head coaches, I don't think this is going away. I think this will be something that they'll do a lot. Vrabel talked to the team, addressed the team before the pro day began on Monday morning. So
when you went to the Zay Flowers one a couple years ago at BC, how different was it this year?
I'd say there's more people this year. Certainly more media covering it, but it was a little bit more people this year, which I found surprising because it's a wide receiver, and usually there's some value to watching those guys run routes in person and things like that. But just in comparison, when I went for Zay Flowers, the highest ranking person for the Patriots was Cameron Williams, the college scouting director. This one, all three top decision makers were in attendance. So they definitely tried to show out, I think, a little bit for O'Brien. I think they tried to do him a solid as well, but it was cool. It was interesting.
I think it stood out to me. I went to the Holy Cross one, smaller, but those low-level scouts from other teams, just what a grind it is for them. It seems like they are just doing this like pro day to pro day, timing, measuring, setting up stuff, taking stuff down. It's just, you got a little glimpse into the grind of, we kind of sit up in our ivory tower, we do our scouting, and but it's like you don't have to go out to some random school in the middle of nowhere and time 15 guys, 14 of whom probably have no chance of even making it.
Now, were there any other prospects there yesterday other than BC players?
Yeah, there were some local guys that were there, and their quarterback, who is going to be draft eligible, I believe, next year, he threw to the receivers, which happens a lot. So it's kind of like an early showcase for him, and he threw pretty well, I have to say. I think he's in a quarterback competition right now with the kid that transferred from Alabama.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he's going to win it, and he can spin it a little bit.
It'd be interesting to see what BC does next year. Year two of O'Brien, they get their program in, get their some of their kind of personnel, and especially with the skill positions.
Last year.
Yeah, they did. They had a pretty good year.
They had a quarterback problem.
Yeah, but the quarterback last year was more of like a dual threat.
He was a runner.
He was a runner. This kid can throw it. Yeah, he can throw from the pocket. So,
okay. All right, let's get to the phones. The hotline is 855-PATS-500. We'll go to Randy in Providence. What's up, Randy?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
I just wanted a couple, comments / questions, draft related, and then kind of get you guys' reactions and answers afterwards. You guys were talking about the length concerns of Campbell, and I felt like you were kind of almost poo-pooing it, it's quarters of an inch and so forth. And I think, recently we saw that again in the Super Bowl where it's, Joe Tooney is just getting dominated at left tackle because he's not a left tackle because of the length concerns. And I do think throughout the season there are a number of scouts posting in Discord groups and a couple on YouTube channels of their own that were concerned about Will Campbell's length and his ability to deal with faster edge rushers due to those length concerns. Similar to Kelvin Banks Jr., they had footwork concerns about whether he'd be a better guard or tackle. And then, you guys were talking about the receivers for us last year. I think a really good argument could be made, is it bad evaluation or bad development, given
both.
The inexperience of the coaching staff overall?
Yeah.
I would say both, only because the guys that have left here have not gone on, N'Keal Harry has not blossomed elsewhere.
Yeah.
As an example.
Well, I mean, just specific to the guys last year, like Polk and Baker specifically. Are we out on them because they were bad picks, or were they not developed properly?
Right.
But I think
I'm going with A.
The wide receiver class is very similar to the 2019 wide receiver class, where it's it's not a lot of great talent at the top, but there's a lot of good guys in the second, third round that you could get. And I wonder what you think specifically about a guy like Jalen Lane, who's got all those physical tools, and he's kind of got a better catch radius, bigger hands than guys like Kyle Williams or Jalen Knoll. And then maybe the kid out of Miami, Restrepo. Do you think he fell into day 3 after running that 4.83 yesterday? And do you think that's good for us in getting someone who could maybe fill that role in the 4th, 5th round? And then I wanted to know if you thought free safety was a sneaky need for us. Maybe someone specifically like Andrew Makuba. Mike Vrabel's defenses in Tennessee always had kind of ball hawking, Kevin Byard safety, and I don't know if we have that guy right now. So that's it. Thanks
Randy.
On.
Lot to digest there.
Yeah, Restrepo was like a 4.7, 4.8 something.
No, 4.83.
4.83.
Yeah, so
That's not good.
Armand Membo would beat him in a race. Put it to you that way.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that was really good in that call, so I don't want this one comment, and this is not directed. Was it Randy?
Yep.
Because he was really good with that call. Only Patriots fans could look at a wide receiver running a 4.8 as a positive for the Patriots. Only Patriots fans. Just this good because now he drops lower in the draft and we can get. Or is it bad that he ran a 4.83 coming into the league?
Yeah.
So that means like in 2 years he's running like a 5-second 40.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, he.
You don't get faster generally unless you're like
On the pro.
learning nutrition at the NFL level.
I wanted to like Restrepo at the Senior Bowl. I went into it being like, this is going to be
Everybody does.
a Welker Edelman slot, and that poor kid tried to separate on slot fades all week long and just could not stack over. Like, he couldn't run by anybody. And I was like, this is going to be this is not, he's a one-level receiver. He's going to be quick hitters underneath. He can run with the football after the catch. He's got good instincts, good feel for zone coverage, all that.
And Randy, I don't want to make it
pretty
sound
stuff.
like that I would say, oh, don't waste your time. You take a flyer on him late round, 6th, 7th round, whatever, and you get him. I saw his college production. I know what he's done at Miami. He's been a good player for them for a couple of years. So I wouldn't say I'm out on him. I'm just saying I'm not like longing for a slow slot receiver. I think this team needs playmakers. If he comes in, he's just one of those guys, he's a football player, it doesn't matter what his time speed is, fine.
What was his cone?
I don't
His short
know.
shuttle also wasn't good.
Well,
so he just did not test very well.
He was a very
across the
productive
board.
player at Miami, and I'm not dismissing what the actual tape shows. He caught a lot of passes for Miami, and it wasn't just with Cam Ward last year. He was like that with quarterback issues prior to that at Miami.
All right. Alex is in D.C. Hey, Alex.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. So I had some questions around 30 visits.
Okay.
Sorry, you guys broke up for a sec. Questions about 30 visits. What actually happens during a 30 visit? Do you think Vrabel will be using them differently this year? And why haven't more been reported for the Pats?
I think now aren't these all public knowledge? Doesn't the league publish 30 visits? No?
No.
I don't think so.
No. I would say the main thing with all these things is getting to know the player
Well,
more.
Gronk fell asleep, so.
You're really, I mean, there are some football aspects. They'll put them in the classroom and quiz them on their side of the ball, have the coaches come in and put them through a test like that. There might be an on-field, workout that goes on, but I would say mainly you're trying to get to know the player a little bit better, his personality, his temperament, the type of kid he is, that sort of thing. And then as always, medicals. Like medicals are massive. You get them in the facility, you get your own doctors, you get put them through medical testing. So a lot of 30 visits are related to this player has an injury and he's coming off an injury or had a prior injury in college that was severe. And so this kid tore his ACL 2 years ago, and they want to check out his knee and make sure that his knee is in good shape.
It's a good question, though, that we haven't heard about any.
We have heard about a couple of them.
Yeah.
A couple
Have there
running
been a couple?
backs.
Yeah.
And Ursary is coming in for one reportedly. A couple running backs, Dylan Sampson, Ollie Gordon are out there. But yeah.
I haven't seen much. I'm with Alex. I must have missed some of that. Maybe it was during my NCAA tournament blackout period.
We also have to remember the big college pro days still haven't happened yet, or happening this week. So usually those players don't go on visits until after their pro day.
Every team must have to tell the league who they're having visit because you're only allowed 30.
Yep.
So I wonder if that information's out there.
And that doesn't include the local guys.
Right.
You get free ones with those.
Yeah, I don't think that they usually get to all 30. Like I think 30 is a lot. And we've kind of taken away top 30 too, because it's not really the top 30 players. It's usually players all across the draft.
Oh yeah,
that come
there's
in.
day 2 and day 3 guys
Thanks,
that
Alex.
they visit with too.
It's just a question of how you allocate those and guys you have big questions on, like we really feel like we need to get. But I always like the stories where they didn't talk to me. I didn't even meet them.
Right.
They just liked my film when they drafted me. Those guys, I feel like work out a little bit sometimes.
There's usually some sort of red flag with the prospect, whether it's injury, character concerns, whatever the case may be, and they have them in.
I was going to say, going back to the previous caller, I don't know if I necessarily agree with 2019, where like 2019 it felt like there was a jumble of late first, early second receivers. I mean, a lot of guys who've gone on to success, but I see guys with traits, but I don't know. I don't see a lot of like, this guy might be a number one. What's the one guy I'm thinking of? Arkansas?
Arkansas.
No.
Nope.
One of those schools. The big athletic kid that he has like the body type of a legit number one, but I'll think of it in a second.
Jaden Higgins?
I was going to say, what's the Iowa State guy that I like?
Jaden Higgins.
Oh, please.
That's why I need
Yeah.
I need him.
Allow me
Make
to
sure you're at the
consult my
draft
notes.
shows.
I do think
I need you.
this wide receiver class is getting a little bit too much hate. I don't think it's a great class at the top, but it's a pretty deep class. I mean, there's going to be guys, as always, that go day 2, early day 3 that I think are going to be solid NFL players. Or I think them going to be stars. Like probably not, but I think there's more depth to the class and it's getting credit for.
I'll let you know in due time.
I'll be looking forward to that.
Ole
Miss. Mississippi.
Yeah.
Rhett writes in, Patriots picked for need and intangibles, and that's how they ended up with the worst roster. I'm tired of hearing about intangibles. Talent wins games. The years of Patriots winning with intangibles and do your job are over. And stop pretending like we're picking a running back or tight end at 4th overall. Carter, Hunter, and if they're not there, you probably have to pick McMillan.
Stop pretending.
So just to be clear, nobody is suggesting picking any position if Carter or Hunter is available. I think we all three agree if one of those two is available.
What do you like best?
They should take one of those two. So I would never suggest taking Ashton Genty over Abdul Carter.
No, and you asked earlier, Paul, about Carter, Hunter preferences, and I think I've all been lockstep on Carter.
That would be my preference.
Me too, but I feel like Hunter's giving me it's just the lack of attention on offense, I think, so far, and that's why I'm getting a little itchy. Like I'm looking at and really just,
it's one
addition at
criticism.
receiver, and it's a little because I also don't feel that they've really added a lot on defense. They've stabilized it.
Yeah.
They've gotten the pieces in place, but for me, they need to get the guys, I've said it a couple times now, that are going to make the ceiling, like the next generation of guys that, these guys, Harold Landry, he's a stopper. He can play. He'll be good. He'll be solid. But you need that young guy, that young third guy to come in, and really push those guys and eventually be the go-to guys there, They've got the baseline there, but
you're being greedy about your defense.
I know, and I'm trying not to be
on your defense.
because a lot of the young guys are on offense too.
That's a legit critique because they have taken a lot of defensive players and haven't really addressed the offense. I felt real sunshiny yesterday on the show because they were saying, what about the neglect on offense? And I just said you can have these things be true at the same. Like, I think the opportunity to pick guys to fill holes presented itself on defense. I don't think it was an orchestrated.
Right.
Mike Vrabel's a defensive coach, and he's only going to do the defense let the offense.
That's what was available this year.
Whatever.
Figure it out, Josh.
I don't feel there were a lot of great options on offense that they absolutely could have gotten a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Now, probably wouldn't have just been by free agency. They might have had to get creative with the DK Metcalf or a Cooper Kupp or some, one of these kinds of guys, swinging a deal for somebody. But the guys that were available, that were the best players, in my view, were on defense, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
David Main, I know that if Carter or Hunter is available we probably can't pass them up, but I'm secretly hoping that they're both taken so we're forced to take Campbell. I personally believe that protecting the quarterback is more important than having a WR1. Star receiver is worthless if May doesn't have time to throw him the ball. Ask Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson about all their Super Bowl wins. See, Paul? Even if Campbell ends up being a guard, he's like a Zach Martin, right?
Why would you want to have a great quarterback-wide receiver combination? Because maybe you might not win the Super Bowl like the 31 other teams that don't.
Campbell, like Zach Martin, still makes the line better. And Phil Perry reported that he watched the LSU tapes with Dante Scarnecchia, and Scar said the guy is a tackle all day.
I didn't know that Scar said that.
Well, I don't know why David Maine would not.
I read the article that Phil wrote so unless he said added that on a podcast, I don't listen to everything that.
It's kind of burying the lead.
Yeah, right. But he didn't say that, and most of the quotes I saw from Scar about this were more in generalities of, in general, arm length is important because of X, Y, and Z, and that sort of thing. But
I just would caution that it's no more true to say that a great wide receiver and quarterback are useless without blocking as it would be to say great blocking is a guarantee of success without the rest. I think there are plenty of really good tackles that toiled in that league for a long time on bad teams. You know, like I just, you need everything. Like the Eagles have a great offensive line, arguably the best in the league, if not the best.
What else they got?
If they didn't have anything else, would they have won it with just an offensive line? They have the best roster in the league. I mean, they have great weapons, at receiver. They have a great running back. They have a really good quarterback, if not great. And the defense made plays.
MVP type front guy.
And they made plays all over the place.
I just wondered, to go back to the Carter Hunter conversation a little bit too. If you don't address the offense, whether it's tackle or receiver, with the first pick in the draft, I think you're punting on that position until next year, because obviously you'll take somebody on day 2 and it's another Caden Wallace-esque dart throw and you hope for the best.
Can it be better than that though?
I don't know.
One of your Ursary guys is, or
if you trade back up,
Connerly.
If you trade back up into the first round, if you trade up until probably into the 20s or maybe earlier 30s, then maybe, but you're still not getting.
You're not getting it at 38, is what you're telling me.
I don't think so, and I don't think you're getting both. Definitely not getting both. So
both.
You can't get receiver and tackle.
Oh no! I meant like a tackle. You like Matt Light. I'm thinking Matt Light. Can I get Matt Light in this at 38?
I think
which maybe depends. I'm not expecting Matt Light to step in as a rookie and do what he did in 2001, which was be a starting caliber tackle for them right out of the chute. But can you have your tackle of the future at 38?
I don't think
it's tough.
It all depends on when that Connerly, Ursary, Josh Simmons run happens. Like those three guys.
So last year it would have been no, because last year that run happened early.
Correct.
And the Patriots weren't able to get into it.
That's my fear. So Marius Mims started the run at 18. Marius Mims goes. Tyler Guyton goes. Those couple guys go in the end of the first round. Once that run stops in this draft,
that's big.
The cliff drops to the next group of tackles. So now you're talking about Trapilo, who's really a right tackle. You're talking about Anthony Belton from NC State, who's probably a 3rd or 4th round pick. In most drafts, you really have that drop off to what was last year was, Patrick Paul, Kingsley Sumatia, Roger Rosegar, and Caden Wallace. Yep. And the only one that really played well was the kid in Washington, was Brandon Coleman. And
Rosengarten wasn't bad.
But he played guard.
Oh, that's true.
So
my bad.
That's where you're at right now. If you don't go tackle or receiver with the first pick, I don't know how you get that in this draft.
I'm okay if you take a tackle at 38. Again, I understand everything Evan just said, but if you got a tackle at 38, I'm okay if he's not plug and play. Yeah. I know everybody thinks that every hole that they had literally 15 out of the 22 spots are open. And the Patriots were expected to fill every single one of them with a frontline player. I am not expecting that, and I'm not going to be disappointed if they're not able to do that. So it doesn't need to be a plug and play left tackle. But can it be a guy that, okay, he's going to be my left tackle. He's not quite ready yet, but he's going to be my left tackle. Maybe by the middle of the season, he's emerging as the starter. And, heading into 26, that's my left tackle. I'm okay with that. Yeah. A lot of fans won't be. They're like, we've been waiting for 5 years. What are we doing? What are they waiting for on offense? Blah, 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 blah. I'm okay with that.
That goes back to need, though, and I feel like at that point in the draft, you could get a plug-and-play outside linebacker, running back. So that's how you're kind of weighing it. We're going to try to develop this guy into a need that we really have, or there's definitely going to be a running back sitting there at 38 that, maybe that's even too soon for one of the running backs. But I would say defensive end, outside linebacker, that position group that's really that's the spot for those guys.
But I think
read my mind.
I think you can get a wide receiver in the second round. That
you
could,
but if you go, but if you go at 38, if you take a tackler or receiver, I just don't think that you can now count on 69 and 77 filling the other hole that you don't address.
No. But again, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with there still being a hole.
Right, but
after
to Deuce's
this
point,
year.
I think that in the third round, you can find a running back that's going to contribute. You can find a pass rusher that can contribute. You can find a defensive tackle that can contribute. Those positions are where the depth is in this draft. So, like, at 38, my fear is that they're going to find themselves in a defensive line sort of party, right? Like, there's just going to be defensive linemen and edge rushers just flying off the board at that point in the draft, and everybody's going to be waiting on tackle and waiting on receiver because there aren't any that are worth picking.
But I get that, and I'm okay with it. If they get a receiver in the third round, why can't I get a receiver who can contribute? Yes, I understand. I still have my hole with that number one receiver spot.
But can I?
I think if they sign Stephon Diggs, who was here last week, I still think they have a hole with the number one receiver spot. Like I don't think that's going to get filled this season. But they need to be in the business of getting better players on the roster.
Yeah.
Somehow.
What do
They
you
need
do,
to
though, Paul?
improve the overall talent level.
What would you do? Like, what do you do a receiver, though? Like, I totally heard your point, what you just made, and is it worth taking a flyer on a guy when you've already got 3-4 guys on the roster?
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to take. To me, a flyer is taking McMillan at 4. Well, I adjust my need. I had a need for a number one receiver. I took the 4th pick of the draft. Well, if he can't play, I haven't filled the role.
Well, I think that's a little exaggeration.
No, but if he's not good enough to be that guy.
Right, but McMillan's more than a flyer. Like, McMillan,
I don't see a lot of people that think he's worthy of a top 5 pick.
I don't know about if he's worthy of a top 5 pick, but he's a top 10 talent in this class. So, like, that's not a... Like, to me, a flyer is like Pop Douglas was a flyer.
No.
Like
that's not
Javon
that's
Baker
not the same thing.
was a flyer, right? Like, those guys are lottery
I just
tickets.
don't think that if you take McMillan, your problems are solved at the top of the wide receiver.
You still need to get
chart,
faster.
Kyle and Pembroke, if I remember correctly, on one of Paul's shows, they said Travis Hunter isn't fast. Evan Deuce, you guys are all ball knowers. Is this fact or crap?
I have no comment.
He looks fast.
Why don't you have a comment?
Do you think he's fast or not?
Because if you have you watched the guy play? I mean,
he's definitely got burst.
He's got probably one of the best play speeds in the entire draft. Like, I don't know if you put him on a stopwatch, if he was going to run a 4.2, I don't know. But when you watch him play, I mean,
he ran away from guys.
Yeah.
I like him better as a corner than a wide receiver, but I think the Patriots would need to use him at wide receiver if they did it. If they did it that way, I feel like the little that I watched him, he's the best athlete on the field.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll be the case in the NFL. So I worry a little bit about him as a wide receiver.
Would we be talking any differently about Travis Hunter if he was playing in the SEC his career?
Yeah, if he did that in the SEC, yeah, I would probably think better of him.
I would just
and then would he have been able to do that in the SEC?
Well, I have no idea.
Yeah.
He's going to try to do it in the NFL, evidently.
I just wonder if we, would, like you mentioned, some of the stuff out there about him as a receiver, that he's a little raw and all that kind of stuff. Well, I think we have to keep in mind he didn't practice or focus on playing wide receiver in college. So his focus was really more on corner, and he was just so damn talented that he played receiver. That's just how they used him at Colorado. So if his not necessarily sole focus, but if 90% of his effort is on training at wide receiver,
he's an athlete,
and he's already at this level, this floor of a wide receiver, just be off his physical gifts.
Does Big Head like him?
I don't know.
Because I would think that he'd be in love with him. Like, he's a Bo Jackson, type of all-around athlete. Do anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really heard enough from Andy to know what he thinks about him. But that will be another one going back to the combine. He weighed in, I think, at 188.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 feet, 188.
A lot of people say how small he is. I don't think there's anything wrong with 188.
Yeah.
Entering the league. He's going to get a little bigger than that again because, Mike,
skinless chicken.
You learn nutrition at the NFL level.
Right.
He'll get a little bit bigger than that, but it's not like he's 160. 188 is that's a sturdy enough frame.
He is basically Garrett Wilson from a measurable standpoint. In terms of height and weight, they basically measured in around the same.
I had said yesterday on Sunshine that if he's available, I don't see how the Patriots could pass him up. And you wouldn't believe the pushback I got.
Really?
Yeah.
Like I said, something really outside of the realm of
Robin
possibility.
Coventry might snuck in a quiet but important question. When measuring arms, what are they measuring from? Wouldn't it be easier to measure from the fingertip of the left hand to the fingertip of the right hand, i.e. his wingspan?
That's wingspan. That's
rather
a different
than
measurement.
arm length? What if he's got short arms but a broad chest?
Well, they do both.
Yeah.
Sign the kid and stick him on a rack.
They do both, and he was exceptionally short in both. A. B, it doesn't matter what you're actually doing. They would all be doing it the same. So if one guy has 32-inch arms and another guy has 34-inch arms, but then you measure it from a different spot, well, the other guy's still going to be 2 inches longer, right? So what's the difference?
He has a very narrow chest
Right.
as well,
You
which
can
is
kinda see
also
it's just the way he's.
He has a narrow chest?
yes, because his wingspan is narrow, so his upper body is not his wingspan's not long, so his shoulder to
I don't
shoulder.
know.
He's
I'm just
he's-
going by what I read.
he's
All of this
I
stuff
don't
is
know
not.
how LSU won a game.
All of this
guy.
stuff is not opinion by me. I'm just going off of what I read.
Yeah.
I've heard
How
that the
much-
wingspan in particular is like among the shortest ever.
It is
Smallest ever for that position.
It is. This is the first prospect that I can remember where we're talking about his wingspan.
Because it was so exceptionally small.
But it
which
just
is weird to me.
because it's never been relevant.
Yeah.
Right.
So in
like,
relation to his wingspan, does he have long arms?
that I don't know, but he's got a short
I see-
wingspan.
I see what
and
you
short
did.
arms.
Forearms are long.
I see
Just
what
the
you did
fore-
there.
yeah.
He's
How
like
much does
Popeye.
Jess know about the Will Campbell arm length conversation?
like
I bet this has
Popeye.
bled over into your personal life, hasn't it?
This is the point of the draft where I do start to get a little annoyed. Like,
So do
I've
you
been
get on the
talking
phone with Alex and like, Alex, I just don't know. 32 and 5/8, it's just not long enough.
It's text.
Trust
we don't
trust
talk
the
on
film.
phone
Trust the
anymore.
I should have known.
Trust the
Text.
tape.
But yeah, this is the part where I start to get a little annoyed because like some people start parachuting in,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, like how like, and now like his shows have that Travis Hunter can't actually play wide receiver, like these types of things. and it's
That
just-
wasn't the tenor yesterday. I think people were on board with Travis Hunter.
It's
I mean, I can
so
just go on the
annoying.
show that I was on yesterday with Tony and
You're not on all of them?
no, Tony
your
and Jim
shows.
Murray both said they agreed. Like if Carter or Hunter is available, I think you got to take one of those two guys.
All right. Food's here, so I'll take a break. When we come back, more calls and emails here in Patriots Unfiltered. Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
It's time for another episode of Pats from the Past podcast. Matt Smith here alongside with Paul Perillo, and we're pleased to be joined by former Patriots quarterback Matt Castle. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, glad to be here.
Why are you here, Matt? What would bring you back to Foxborough?
What would bring me back to Foxborough is not just the people, the fans, but it's the tribute. Let's be honest. It's the tribute, the retirement ceremony for Tom Brady, and, it was an incredible start to ceremonies last night when we all got together, a bunch of teammates, old teammates, and familiar faces coming back. So we had a blast last night, and we're looking to continue it tonight.
You're a busy man with a big family, with a lot of responsibilities and everything like that. So it's not the easiest thing to sort of, I'm going to drop everything I'm doing. But was it, and I'm sure, so I mean, I don't want to answer it for you, challenging, but was it an easy decision to make that I wanted to be here?
It was challenging, but it was definitely an easy decision to make. I mean, Tom's a close friend of mine. He's played an important role in my development when I was young, and throughout the years we've stayed close. And just the fact that we get an opportunity to celebrate him tonight and send him out in the proper fashion, it'll be a fun experience for everybody.
You talked about the event that you did on Tuesday night. Any particular teammate that maybe you hadn't seen and you were like, wow, it was great to catch up? I'm sure there were a lot of them, but someone individually that stood out?
You know, there's not one individual. The cool part about it is the thing that you miss most, and we talked about this, is when you leave the game, you miss that locker room. And you had Logan Mankins, Matt Light, Dan Copen, Lonnie Paxton, Kevin Falk, Deion Branch, all these guys that you've had these incredible experiences with, and we played together, we competed together. But to come back all and get into one room and be able to see those guys and pick up where we left off and tell funny stories and old jokes, that's what it's all about. And it's the camaraderie that you really don't experience in other walks of life, but you do in that locker room, and so it's pretty unique.
All right, let's start where it started in 2005. And here's a guy who played in one of the best programs in all of college football. You didn't get a chance to play a lot. What were your... What realistically, Matt, did you think was going to happen as you entered the draft that year?
Honestly, I was just hoping to catch on as a free agent and prove myself, maybe even get a practice, because my expectations were, hey, if I can get in, hopefully I can get a chance to prove myself. And throughout the process, I had a good pro day and all that stuff, and I had some workouts for about 5 different teams. And I just thought, you know, there is potential here that I will be a free agent somewhere. And then all of a sudden, that last day of the draft, I get a phone call. I was sitting down at my agency. He's like, look, free agency is going to happen quick. We got to be prepared. We're starting to field some phone calls from different teams. And next thing I know, Coach Belichick's on the line and saying, hey, Matt, welcome to the New England Patriots. We're going to take you next in the NFL draft. And my jaw just dropped. I kind of even had to ask him, are you messing with me? Because I didn't think it was realistic, right? I mean, for a guy that threw, I think it was 32 total passes in college, I backed up 2 Heisman Trophy winners, which probably, you know, kind of helped me along the way in terms of the perception of who I could potentially be. But there wasn't any tape out there. And so the fact that they took a shot on me and gave me an opportunity, I'd be forever grateful.
So when you got drafted, you know, we were still doing the newspaper back then, Matt. That's how long ago it was. But, you know, I had your draft profile that year, and I called Pete Carroll, who was the head coach here, my first year working for Patriots.com, and I talked to Pete a little bit, and he gushed about how agonizing the decision was between you and Matt Leinart. And how you guys had sort of toggled back and forth, and, you know, depending on the day that he woke up, he was convinced you were the guy.
Right.
And then it was him, and then it was you. And do you think that maybe Pete talked to a lot of NFL guys, maybe with his, you know, obviously extensive experience, and maybe that sort of helped give you a little bit of a push?
I absolutely think he had an influence on just the ability to know so many different people from a personnel standpoint. And then at the same time, I remember on the pro day before we started our pro day, he would go in and speak to all the scouts individually about each guy. And so I know that we always had a good relationship, and as agonizing as it was for him, it was more agonizing for me to sit there and have to wait and say, you know, I can't, the week before season, getting called into that office and getting the devastating news that what you've been working for, you've been the backup for 3 years behind Carson. I felt like it was my time to go. And then to be told, look, we're going to go with Leinart to start, but if he falters at all, and, you know, he took off that first game with like a rocket ship, and we go beat Auburn, and then I was like, man, what am I going to do? So I was stuck playing. I went and switched over, played a little tight end that year, played on special teams, did all these different things just because I wanted to play and be a part of it, but I was kind of stuck in that catch-22.
That's why Belichick drafted him.
Yeah, he's like, maybe he'll be on special teams. The more you can do.
Right.
The more you can do.
Okay, so you're here ostensibly, you know, to help celebrate Tom's career. And so one of the big things that has happened throughout the years, a rookie comes in, you're in the room with him. You know, what was your first impression when you met Tom?
You know, I pretty much introduced myself in the weakest, nerdiest form and fashion. When he came up, I said, Mr. Brady, Matt Castle. Because, you know, it's an intimidating environment, right? And this guy just came off 3 Super Bowls. You don't know how to, like, normally you go up and say, hey, what's going on, man? Nice to meet you. I just completely geeked out. Went with a Mr. Brady. He's like, hey, bud, don't call me that. Call me Tommy. I was like, he might have me cut tomorrow just based on the fact that he doesn't want to be in the room with somebody like that. But, no, he was incredible from the jump. I mean, we got in there, and then soon thereafter, as we started to get into the workouts that offseason, he's noticed that, look, I was one of those workout warriors, too. I like to go in there. I like to work out. And he's like, hey, you want to work out with me? So he kind of took me under his wing at that point. And from that point on, for the next 4 years, we worked out every day with each other. We were in every meeting. But for me, it was just incredible to watch the professionalism day in and day out and his leadership. And it was not just with his words, but it was with his actions. It's how he took care of himself. It's how he interacted with his teammates, how he treated one guy because he thought he could get the most out of this guy. Like Welker, for instance. He could yell at him all day long, and Welker would just continue to go. You know, and then there's other guys that, maybe like a Randy Moss, that he'd sit there in the locker after practice and just have a general discussion about stuff because how he approached people was different based on their personality and the relationships. So it was just a master class in being a professional quarterback, and then to watch what he did week in and week out was just astounding.
So you get to be part of that room with, you know, the best that's ever done it, and you also get to be coached by a guy who a lot of people think is the best who's ever done it. What do you remember about Bill specifically? And I know Matt and I talk about that story that I think you talked about in the Dynasty documentary about him calling your mom.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or threatening to call his mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
About being a dumbass because I missed the corner blitz.
Was that your rookie year?
That was my rookie year. Yeah, it was the last preseason game. I didn't see the weak corner blitz, which, hey, they were pretty sneaky about it. They disguised it well. But he definitely called me out in the meeting the next day. He's like, yeah, Matt, let's make sure we go through the fronts and check the corner blitz so I don't have to call your mom and tell her, dear Mrs. Castle, we're sorry your son's in the hospital because he's a dumbass. And in front of the whole team, I was like, yep, I deserve that one. But Bill was incredible because he pushed you to limits that you didn't know that you could go, and he got the best out of each of his players. But I always respected about Bill was he had you better prepared for any situation, situationally speaking, and also just game readiness than I've ever been around. And part of that was even on Tuesdays, taking the time out of his day on a Tuesday, our off day, we'd come in, we'd meet with him, and you've probably heard the story. We sit down, go through every personnel in their defensive back end, safeties, corners, strengths, weaknesses, summarize who they are, then even maybe a potential matchup on linebackers. Talk about the defensive coordinator and also his lineage and where it came from. Then we'd watch film on all these guys. So by the time you came in on Wednesday, you're rolling. You understand why we're implementing certain pass schemes and concepts, who we're trying to attack on specific routes, who we're trying to take advantage of. And so you had this confidence going into game week, understanding why we're doing certain things. And there was never that, wait, what are we doing? And if there was, it was answered. Right. And so, and the other thing I always appreciated about Bill was he was always held everybody to the same standard of accountability. It wasn't like, hey, if you're this guy and you're a big name, you're off limits. And I've been around that type of program before too. No, it was, look, if you're Tom Brady or if you're a free agent, it doesn't matter. If you've messed up, I'm going to call you out. We're going to correct it here. It might not be something that, you know, everybody's cup of tea, like to sit there and get it in the meeting room. But at the same time, it set a level of expectation and a standard for everyone.
And now, great moments in history.
Satellite radio. I really like it.
It's good.
Yeah. You don't like it, Eric?
I don't have it.
You don't have anything.
Okay.
You don't even have HBO.
Podcast. That's true. I don't have HBO.
Like you
HBO
live.
I have access to HBO.
I know, but you live like a monk's life over there in North Providence.
I know, you're really concerned.
You know, you're like a hermit.
Sure.
Yeah. Eric wearing an olive-colored sweater.
Nope, it's brown.
Olive.
Thank you. Because I've said that before.
It's
it has
brown.
a green tint, and he gets really upset.
I don't get really
olive.
upset.
It has a green tint to it.
Sure, but it's brown. It's not olive.
I think it's olive.
Trust me, it's not olive.
The color of an olive, like a dark olive, looks just like your sweater.
That's another great moment from
Oh, those were the days, huh?
All right, I'm not getting mad.
No.
But it's brown.
Right.
Like he was actually angry at the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's the best.
Just like a color.
All right, 855-PATS-500 is the hotline. Podcasts at patriots.com is the email address. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, and if you don't, you should right away go to patriots.com/PU newsletter and sign up. And every Friday, Alex puts that together and sends it out. How did we land with where you would take a free agent for dinner or a restaurant? Like, was there a consensus? Like, okay, that was the
Paul
answer.
didn't play the game.
Oh, you didn't play last week?
He said Jersey Mike's or something.
Oh.
Like
No.
Yeah.
I said the North End. I said take them to Boston so they know that they're not basically in Siberia. Take them to Boston. Take them to the North End. You can't go wrong. But if you just want to stay local, number 13 at Jersey Mike's.
Okay.
Mike's way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I was having a little fun
I
with
kept it local. I mean, Sharon's such a town with so many Patriots greats in it.
And such
Andre
a fine
Tippett.
cuisine.
You didn't take him to the spa, did you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just fantastic cuisine in Sharon. They're really known for that.
Yeah.
I didn't take it seriously. This guy.
I was trying to pump up my town.
Downtown Sharon.
I will. I think, Fred, I will have maybe a little something special in the newsletter this week. There was a new addition to the Do So family over the weekend.
Oh, okay.
Small four-legged friend.
He caved.
Has joined.
It was fantastic.
Do you want to save it for the newsletter, or are you going to just
No, I
tell
can give
us?
a little tease. No, we found a very chill dog.
What kind of dog?
It's kind of like a Chihuahua mix. He's a little
Okay.
bit of a Chihuahua.
Small.
But, he's a small dog. His name is Zoot, and he comes from Texas, so we kept the name Zoot. I don't know where it came from.
What color is he?
He's like a nice, like light brown.
Olive?
Yeah.
So ears stick up.
Ears are very. So he's got some I can't say
Dachshund.
Dachshund.
Little wiener dog.
He's got a little bit of pug, and he's got a little bit of what's the last one?
A little bit of pug.
Poodle. Little poodle.
And a little poodle. in it.
Wow.
So he's a little bit of a mix. But
Gets
no,
around,
he's
huh?
Yeah.
apparently his parents have.
Parents.
But no, very chill dog, and he's assimilating well into the family. So maybe I'll have a little write up.
That's nice.
So it's good.
Who does he gravitate to most?
Probably my wife right out of the gate. But he was smart when we went to the thing, to the shelter to look at him. He came right up to me and sat right next to me and kind of flipped upside down and was just like hanging with me. So he knew who the skeptical one was. And he's just very calm, not a barker, chill dog. So I think it's a good addition for all those out there who were
very excited.
That's
great.
I had to text Evan and Alex
Yeah.
because I knew they were heavily invested in.
Yeah, on Sunday night, sitting there, get a text with a picture from Deuce, which was like a picture. I open the text message. There's Zook. We're very excited.
Nice.
Very excited.
So there you go.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Very excited.
Very good. All right. Let's go to the hotline. He's been holding on for a while. Patty and Agawam. What's up, Patty? Patty.
He passed out.
People are going to be really upset that you weren't on the line. Let's go to Ohio. Brad's there. What's up, Brad?
Hey. How you doing? Good afternoon, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Good. How are you?
Good. Got a couple thoughts here with you, and the draft's upon us now, so I think we're focusing a lot on that, and that's a good thing. Just a couple quick insights. If it were me and it was pick 4, I would either go Hunter, Carter, Campbell, Graham. And if neither one of those players were available, I would try to get Colston Loveland simply because he'll be great with Drake. And then I don't know about that North Dakota State blocker. Where are you all anticipating he'll be taken? Because can we get back up into the first round and get him?
Well, he's a guard. You're talking about Gray Zabel, who's fantastic. He's going to play guard, though, at the next level, and he's going to be a top 20, top 25 pick, I think, in this class. Really strong pre-draft process starting at the Senior Bowl, just absolutely skyrocketed up the board since then. So, good player, really good football player.
And you don't think we'll get a chance? He won't even fit in our offense then.
No, I don't think it's not. He's just a guard. He's we talk about Will Campbell's arm length, like Gray Zabel's like closer to 32. You know, he's really gonna. There's no question. Like there's no debate with him. He's moving inside. At the Senior Bowl, where he practiced at all 3 spots, actually center as well.
Okay. Then I was hoping, because he did look like the sure bet as far as the blocker goes. And then the running back, I still hope we get Donovan Edwards, and then Junkins, the other Ohio State running back, and then a wide receiver, Isaiah Bond from Texas. Is that?
Oh yeah, we like him.
And
Isaiah
then maybe Beck or the
Besh,
Stewart, the rusher.
Jack Besh.
Yeah. Okay.
Was it Beck?
Yeah.
Who else?
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks.
Yeah,
Brad in Ohio.
Brad's branching out a little bit. Only 5 Michigan guys on that call.
I was expecting
Isaiah Bond was outside the box.
Everybody's all over the place with Isaiah Bond. You either love him or you hate him.
Yeah.
There's no consensus. He's obviously got great speed, but he never really realized the potential in college. Like he had a really good year at Alabama a couple of years ago. Looked like the next Jalen Waddle. Like was just moving at a different speed than everybody else on the field. And the production just never really took off between Alabama and Texas. So that's Isaiah Bond. But he mentioned Judkins. I've watched all these running backs recently. I actually like Travion Henderson, the other Ohio State back, a little bit better. But both those guys can play. They'll be second-round picks.
Curtis in St. Louis, with a year after 2024, question for Paul. Would you have rather taken, say, one of Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, or Joe Alt and paired them with, say, Shedeur Sanders, or one of this year's free agent veteran quarterbacks that were available? Or would you have still taken Drake and be in the current position with the potential options at tackle and wide receiver? So let me get it. So last year,
B. I would take B.
You would take B.
I would rather feel good about my quarterback situation than be searching for it, because I think there's a lot of teams that have good talent and don't have an answer at quarterback that are not very good.
Yeah.
They're just okay.
I mean, how much
see Pittsburgh Steelers.
Do you not want to be sitting here with Joe Alt and trying to figure out, please, Russell Wilson, come to New England,
right?
Save us.
And by the way, if he comes, he's not saving you.
Yeah.
Like the chances are much greater that Drake May becomes an All-Pro, and that saves you, than it is of plugging some veteran in or relying on Shedeur Sanders. In my view, I just don't feel like those quarterbacks are as good as the class from last year.
Jameis Winston, Giants, right?
Whew, not even close.
Second question, Evan.
Yes.
With the addition of Marcus Epps, do you feel he can be a true safety in Vrabel's defense, or would he be more in the box? And who do you feel he would pair better with, Duggars or Peppers? Also, could you see the Patriots moving on from one of those guys?
Yeah, Epps, I think, is a flyer. I'm not ready to pencil him in anywhere. Coming off an injury, he's a good, I would say probably more of a free safety, like somebody that's going to play deep a little bit more. But he's pretty versatile, when he was healthy and playing well. But I'm going to have to see it in training camp with him. And I think, you have him. They still have Jalen Hawkins.
They brought him back almost the same time, too. Similar kind of player, too.
Yeah, so I think one of those two guys will probably end up winning a spot. I don't think they want to use a draft pick on a safety. I think they would rather, give Duggar and Peppers another year, and hopefully they're the players we thought they were when we extended them versus what they played like last year. I think that they would prefer to do that. That's just my opinion. But
I kind of think Peppers is here to stay now. I think if they were going to get rid of him because of the incident last year, which he was cleared for, still.
They're clearly not getting rid of him for that incident.
Right.
He'd been long gone if they were doing that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm not convinced that those two guys will be on the team. I mean, one of them will be, but I'm not convinced that both of them will be.
I don't know if both of them necessarily need to be, just because.
Could it be Duggar off the team, you think?
They're redundant skill sets. I think you can get away with not having one of them.
That's why I think there's a chance that one of them could go.
Yeah, I just think that in terms of using, we got a call earlier about, Andrew Makuba, who's going to be a top 100 pick at safety. Like, I don't know if this is really, you're creating more holes in the canoe, right? Like, if you're starting to pull out the safeties now all of a sudden, you're going to use a top 100 pick on a safety, and now what about all the other positions that you need that are maybe more pressing? Like, I would much rather them, kind of like what they're doing at tight end, you probably have passable safeties right now. So let's just see if it works itself
And Mike,
out.
your chances are you're right. Status will be quo.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be stunned if one of those guys goes.
No, I'm just interested. You guys are saying one of those guys, implying that maybe you think Kyle Duggar could go. I thought that's interesting.
Whichever one they can get something for.
There was a time where
I don't think they're going to release them.
Yeah. There was a time where we wouldn't think of getting rid of Kyle Duggar. So let's get back to that time. Maybe a better front line and more consistent pressure on the quarterback helps him.
Yeah, getting him healthy too. I mean,
and get him healthy.
Maybe the biggest piece.
I mean, I just think things sometimes pop into your lap that you're not necessarily expecting. And if there was what if some team looks at Kyle Duggar and says, well, he was really banged up last year. The contract is okay. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Yeah. I could give something for him. Something. Maybe I have a surplus somewhere, and I could trade this or a draft pick for Kyle Duggar, and the Patriots don't necessarily need 2 physical box safeties. Maybe they look to get something that they do need.
Those are the kind of things that could happen.
Right. I wouldn't suggest they're going to year 1 into a 4-year deal, just release them and eat that whatever the dead money is. I don't think that would happen.
Yeah. Nate in Chicago, did you guys see Dion? And he means Sanders, publicly saying, we are hoping for New York. I think his endorsement could help force the Giants' hand, especially since Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are on the hot seat.
I agree.
Well, they just signed James.
I think the opposite, though. I understand what the mentality is. I just feel like if you're on the hot seat, the last thing you want is an unproven rookie who some people think is a second-round pick.
See, I feel like you almost have no choice. Like, if you're Dable and Shane, you need to start the clock. Like, you need to take a risk at one of these quarterbacks at some point and start the clock. And, last year they had opportunities to do it, too. Like, they could have had Penix. They could have had J.J. McCarthy. They could have had Nix. Like, at some point, you have to take the plunge. And if you keep kicking that can down the road, then you're going to start asking questions like you just not have the chops to just go out and do it.
I just feel like if you take Sanders and you win 3 games, you're gone.
But what's the alternative? Playing Jameis Winston?
The alternative is to figure out a way to get like Russell Wilson. Or
you don't think taking Sanders buys them some time?
I do.
No?
Nope.
Unless he's
they're
absolutely
out. They're
horrible.
out if they don't win some games.
Yeah, but if they win more games than they did last year and Sanders shows hope.
I don't think that can happen.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's just my view. I mean, that doesn't mean I'm right. I'm wrong about a million things.
Yeah. I thought
my prediction would be Sanders will not win 5 games.
But I always thought that getting that rookie quarterback buys you some time as a head coach.
Yeah, it does when you're a new regime. Like, I don't think, for example, Tennessee would have to take Cam Ward if they didn't want to.
I guess it didn't work for Gerard, right?
Like everybody uses Atlanta as an example. So they went and signed Kirk Cousins, and they still drafted Michael Penix. It's a first-year coach. He's not on the hot seat.
Yeah.
He can do that. So I think if you sign Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, I know that's unlikely. It looks like Pittsburgh for Aaron Rodgers. But if they sign one of those guys, I don't see how you can then take Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
If I was them, I would just be – they messed up the draft last year. Malik Neighbors is a great player, but they messed up the draft last year. I'm sure in the eyes of their ownership they messed it up by passing on Nix and Penix. Like, those two guys look like they can play in the league, and they needed a quarterback, and they didn't take him. And so if you do that again, and Shedeur Sanders goes to another team and looks like he can play in the league,
you're out. If Sanders can play in the league, if they're wrong and I'm wrong, and he ends up being really good out of the chute, they're gone.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a chance he could be really good out of the chute. Like, and I say really good, like Mac Jones.
I think he's so
season.
raw. I just don't see it.
See, I think it's the opposite. I think that he's actually, he's played a ton of college football.
I know.
And I think he's
not really at a high level.
He's got a pretty good instinct to him, a pretty good, ability to him in terms of his floor. I think a lot of people are just wondering if the athleticism and the arm talent is there for him to have a breakthrough ceiling.
So this is a little stubborn Paulism, because Evan's right. That's the way he's viewed. Evan's got the viewpoint of most. I look at him in a much different way. I think he has talent. I'm intrigued by some of his talent, but I think he's raw and he breaks a lot of rules and runs around aimlessly and generally points his fingers at the offensive line a lot. That, to me, he creates a lot of his own pressure by running around and holding the ball. I think he's really raw. I think he has a long way to go.
Phil in the UK says, if Carter is at 4 given the current D-line and needs elsewhere, would you look to trade down to pick up a wide receiver or tackle and additional picks? I say no, because you don't have Abdul Carter.
Right.
You don't have that type of rusher.
No.
So maybe you have depth on your D-line now, but you don't have Abdul Carter.
And he's potentially special. A really good fit for what they want to do. I mean, there's a number of things they can do with him. It just makes too much sense. It hurts that it's not on the offensive side of the ball, but it's kind of like free agency was. You got to take what's given to you or what's available. I think that'd be a huge thing, though. I mean, if Abdul Carter falls to 4th overall and they get a chance to pick him, that'd be pretty cool.
I would definitely listen to the trade offers. If you get a Will Anderson-like package for Abdul Carter, and you can get a day 2 pick and a future first-round pick for 4 in the position the Patriots are in with all the needs that they have, I would definitely listen to it. Would I do it? I'm glad I don't have.
I'm like that. I like listening.
I'm glad I don't have to make that decision.
I haven't given any thought to that kind of a package because I don't think that's available. But we also haven't thought about Carter being available.
Right.
So I hate to be wishy-washy,
but if somebody wants him that much,
like
if somebody wants him that much, you should want him that much. Like.
My gut instinct would be to take Carter. I think he's a special player, but maybe he's not. I don't know.
Well, I don't even think it has to do with whether he's special or not. They have a lot of holes to fill that all over the roster. I wouldn't hate having the extra picks. Like, then we're going to have a first round, later first round pick this year, but you'll have 4 picks on day 2 of the draft, and you'll have 2 first round picks next year. So you have a lot of picks to work with, whether that's to pick players or to trade them.
It's an intriguing,
right?
Yeah.
Intriguing possibility.
No.
I just wouldn't. Like, I don't know. Last year when you needed a quarterback, it was different. You weren't going to trade down because you were taking a quarterback. I don't know if any one position player moves the needle enough for me to be completely dismissive of a trade down.
I'm excited for this draft, though. Last year it was all right. We just want
for this
we
draft.
just want Jaden Daniels to go. Like I was thinking, I wanted Drake. So there was really one question: like, is Jaden Daniels going to go to Washington?
Have you picked out your outfit yet for the draft?
No, we got to talk about that. We should
You're gonna lay it
I was
out
thinking about going with a
night
quarter
before.
zip.
Quarter zip?
Yeah, you think?
You want to go out on a limb like that?
That's bold.
Yeah.
It's bold.
Halp writes in, Fred, since you didn't like the whatchamacallits I sent way back when, what kind of snack do you and the PU team prefer? Well, Paul and I don't eat snacks anymore. Right?
Oh.
We're off the snacks?
For a little while.
For a little while. So maybe Evan and Deuce can answer the question.
Yeah, I like the whatchamacallits. Snacks?
I'm a big pretzel guy.
I like pretzels.
Pretzels.
Peanut butter pretzels.
Like the kind you get at the game, or like just
no,
pretzels out of a bag?
Yeah, Snyder's.
Snyder's pretzels?
Yeah, pretzels.
Honey mustard?
Yeah, anything.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Chocolate covered.
Pretzel.
Yeah. Peanut butter full.
Yeah, peanut butter pretzels are good.
What about candy?
Snickers. Sour
Snickers?
Patches.
Sour Patch?
I love me Sour Patch watermelons.
I heard that they rot your teeth, Sour Patch.
Absolutely
yeah, they get
do.
stuck in them. Yeah.
No, the
You
acid.
mean to tell me like a piece of like jelly-like candy, coated in sugar, is bad for your teeth?
No, but particularly the sour candies are particularly bad for the enamel.
Doesn't shock me at all. I'm
what
a big
about Jelly Belly? You like Jelly Bellies?
No.
No?
Really.
I don't know from Jelly Bellies. What are Jelly
little,
Bellies?
Little jelly beans,
They
but
got
they're
all
all
kinds
different
of flavors, and you're always just playing like, what's the flavor? You're not
Jelly
just
beans?
enjoying the
Life's
meeting.
like
You're
a
just
box
playing
of
what's the
chocolates.
flavor.
That's what we're doing. I like Oreos.
Oreos.
as well.
Good. Love
double
Oreos.
stuff?
Yeah, you gotta go double
Preferably.
stuff.
Really? You gotta go double
But
stuff.
like I have a semi-addiction to Oreos, so like I have to get them in like the packs so that I limit myself.
So you don't eat the whole thing,
right? Because
Whole
if you gave me a whole box or sleeve of Oreos, that's it.
You have to go to Oreos Anonymous.
Oh yeah, no, it's bad.
My favorite dessert of all time is this Oreo tiramisu that they had at a bakery in LA called Sweet Lady Jane, and it was like it's basically just whipped cream and Oreos, maybe like some custard in there or something.
Sign me up.
It was awesome. It's
basically an
all-time.
excuse for Deuce to continue to tell us he used to live in California.
Anything with Oreos.
It closed down though, Sweet Lady Jane. At least in Encino.
Cookies and cream ice cream, regular
Oreo.
Oreos.
Love Oreo.
I do. I
double
love
stuff.
all of that.
All of
Crust,
them.
just a crust.
He says next,
Pie crust.
Next, please put together a best of great moments in PU history downloads. I would pay for hours of listening to that comedy and contentiousness while driving to clinics and spotting severe weather out here in the Great Plains of Colorado.
Wow.
Lastly, in watching Shedeur Sanders live and via TV, I think he is better than you think. With the Prime-related publicity thrown in, I think he will go top 3.
Well, I think he could very well go in the top 3, but he's better than I think. I feel like you guys are higher on him than I am.
I think
don't want to drag you into my viewpoints.
The big question with Shedeur that I have is what you brought up is, was he making the offensive line worse, or was the offensive line making him worse? Like, if you had put him in Oregon's offense, in Texas's offense, in LSU's offense, or whatever, would he have been lighting?
Good point.
Would he have been lighting it up like those quarterbacks did, like Bo Nix did at Oregon, because no one ever touches him and he's just standing there. So in the NFL, if he goes to a situation where they can protect him, and now he is clean to throw the football, I think that there's a nice.
I'll say this: I hope I'm wrong about Sanders, because I think it'd be good for the league to have especially
much like Baker Mayfield.
But I think there's
a little bit
kind of similar to what you're talking about. But I just think there's a personality there.
Sure.
And I think the aura of Dion, I think there'd be some value to that.
Yeah.
If Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders end up joining, the class from last year, that looks like pretty much all the guys that played had some success, not just Daniels. That's good for the league. All of a sudden, you have an influx of a half dozen, 8 or so good young quarterbacks that are ready, in 3 years when, the older guys are starting to get
Speaking of
a
good
little bit
for
longer in the
whatever,
tooth.
did you happen to catch Fonseca on TV last night, the Brazilian tennis player?
I did not.
Oh.
What tennis was on a Monday night?
Tennis TV. It's
It's
the Miami Open. It's a Masters 1000. It's a big
come
tournament.
on, Paul.
I'm not doubting that it's a big tournament, but what I would say is the Tennis Channel has to get asterisks in the ratings, and somehow you're watching it on Monday night.
One viewer.
Not in my
right?
house.
Right? It's like Patriots Unfiltered on TV.
No, no, this kid's like a rock star. He's like the next big thing.
Love it.
No, you've talked this kid up, and then he went out.
No. You're thinking of Buccelli.
Oh, sorry.
Buccelli's. I don't know what happened to him. He's fallen off the map.
Didn't he just win?
No.
Who's the guy? Recently, you were sniffing.
Yeah, Buccelli. He moved up into the 70s in his ranking, and he got to like the quarters.
Yeah, I'm a tennis
I don't know what's going on.
I watched
with
the
him.
majors a little bit.
But this kid Fonseca,
French is coming up soon. They've been pumping it on TNT.
He's going to be the next big thing.
They need a next big thing because like Djokovic is, and those guys are getting
Oh
old.
no, there's a lot of good young players. Although Ben Shelton, I can't stand him.
Sinner.
Djokovic is saying this guy's the next superstar.
Nice.
Which one? Bocelli?
No, the Francisco.
Fonseca.
Fonseca. Yeah, I mean Sinner probably is.
Well,
him
he's
and
number one
him
in
and
the world.
Alcaraz are the best two right now.
Alcaraz
right?
is awesome. Love watching that guy.
Josh in Atlanta.
We need an American.
What?
We need an American.
Oh, there's a lot of good Americans now.
Yeah, just good. There's no great one.
Taylor Fritz.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah. No,
they're always in the.
They're no great ones.
Yeah, they're always like quarterfinals, semifinals.
Was Andy Roddick considered great?
He was really good.
But he should have been.
He won a couple majors. But Shelton, this kid's got 150.
Who was the last great American men's tennis player? Sampras?
Agassi and Sampras, maybe.
Probably
Sampras. You have to go back that far.
Yeah, probably Sampras.
Yeah, Agassi won a couple of majors. Sampras won like 20.
Yeah. I would say Agassi was, Hall of Famer.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Didn't Sampras marry Veronica Vaughn?
That is correct.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. Every time.
Andy Roddick, no.
Yeah, she married.
Never lived up to the hype.
But thanks for listening.
Never lived up to the hype.
Googling names.
I mean, I feel like that was like my generation's Agassi, Sampras, and he just. He wasn't on that level.
Flash in
but,
the pan.
Like I feel like there's more American women that are relevant.
Yeah,
but
there's some good men who can win. They can. This young kid, Lerner 10, out of California, he's really good. So he's young. These are young people.
Yeah, they're young people.
We need an American to win the U.S. Open. That's
right.
all that matters.
Right. Like the women break through and win everyone. Coco Gauff just won.
She's having trouble.
Yeah.
She's streaky.
She's way
But
off.
Madison Keys won her first major, I think. Didn't she win the Australian, Madison Keys?
I don't know. I forget.
This is like worse than basketball.
I'm lost when we talk basketball.
Yeah, Pagula's good.
We'll get there.
There's some good women.
Yeah.
On one of his shows, Barth mentioned that the most frustrating part about the Patriots drafting Genty at 4 would be not able to see Evan's live reaction. Fred, I'm begging you, find a way to work Alex into your draft day stream, even if it's via Zoom. If there's a chance Barth can witness and comment on the unraveling of Evan Lazar, we'd be eternally grateful. Shout out to Mike for getting the ball rolling on this conversation. There's a chance, however small, Evan is institutionalized if we pick Genty. And that's the only way we can justify taking a running back in round one. So he wants to see you in an institution.
But we'll be dedicated camera on.
Those are a lot of good
Lazard
points.
the whole game.
Right.
But I'll be professional about it, and I will save my thoughts for off the air.
Oh boy.
See, the real reaction though will be like you see it on Slack. It comes through like a second early, but you're holding it in, and
Yeah.
What's Bart's plan for the
You'll
draft?
see it on Slack.
He usually does, the media workroom angle.
He's not on. He's not going to be live on any of the
you
shows.
could come up with us.
I would assume that they'll have him do spots, throughout the night.
Well, we could have him as a spot guest. have
Yeah,
him come on. The
absolutely.
Set. Yeah.
Sure. That's not my call.
What
That's
was
your
the
call.
sniff there for?
Kramer, Merv Griffin.
Oh, okay.
If he
Elaine
would like
Bennis.
to, I'm sure he would. Be
Alex
more
Barth,
than happy.
everyone.
He would really get a kick out of the draft party. That's right up his alley. Like,
yeah.
how cool is this? Like all these people.
He might even
are-
actually have a beer and lose it.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Okay, let's. Oh, Patty's back on the line. What's up, Patty?
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Meh.
I got questions for Fred and for Evan.
Okay.
Freddie, I know you said you're not going to wear the tux, but just in case two quarterbacks are taken in the top three, will you at least bring the tux to the draft party to
No.
slip into?
No.
All right.
No. This
Evan?
This isn't a tux draft. This is a blue collar draft.
All right, I gotcha. Fair enough. Evan, couple quick ones for you, and I'll take them off the air. One of the things I don't think we ever hear about Travis Hunter, just in case he is there at 4, is how good of a separator he is. And I'm assuming that you've watched some film on him. So if you have, how good of a separator is he? And question 2, out of all the guys that you've watched so far, out of all the wide receivers, who do you think is the best separator? And I'll take it off there, guys. Thanks.
Okay.
The best separator. That's a good question.
So first, what's Travis Hunter's reputation? Good separator or not good?
I would say above average separator, great ball skills.
Yeah, I've
great
seen
at
him,
the catch point.
I've seen him make moves that just leave people in the dust.
Yeah, he definitely does separate. I think he's around the 70th percentile separation in terms of PFF and stuff like that. He can separate like that. It's not a concern. But I would say his best trait is his ball skills at the catch point, strong hands, ability to finish through contact. The best pure separator in the draft, I would say it's probably a 2-horse race between Matthew Golden and Jalen Noel from Iowa State. I think both those guys are probably the best pure separators in terms of route running technicians. Your Ladd McConkeys, those types of guys. Golden doesn't necessarily play to the 4.29. I don't think he's that fast, but he's a technician and he's a really good separator. Get some Stephon Diggs comparisons, for ceiling comparisons. So he definitely gets open.
I just don't think we talk much about like what is Travis Hunter's ceiling as a receiver as he learns to run routes and learns the nuance of it and really drills down on it. It's one thing to look at him beating everybody like you guys said earlier as a pure athlete, but when he really becomes a polished wide receiver, like what does that look like? And that's something,
good point.
You don't really, there's a projection there, even though he's an elite athlete, there's a projection there.
And he's only 21 years old.
Well, like Evan said, in college, he didn't focus on wide receiver.
Yeah, right. So he's just out there beating guys on pure ball skills and speed and explosiveness, not the Ladd McConkey who isn't going to set the world on fire with his testing them, but knows the little head dip and the little head, and is able to, with subtle movements, buy himself separation.
He put up 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns on vibes, like basically just being the best player on the field.
Right.
So now imagine we sprinkle in some development and some wide receiver special work, like working on releases, working on the top of the route, like all those different things. All of a sudden, I think it's special. I think the ceiling is special.
Him and Drake late in the down, Drake scrambling a little bit. All of a sudden, you get Travis Hunter cooking through the middle of the field.
Now you're speaking my language.
Eldred is in North Carolina. Hey, Eldred.
Big E.
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
All right.
I got a question. And like I said, Hunter or Banks there, Duke Carter, take him. And then try to trade up in the first round and get a tackle. But I know everybody want Joe Milton gone, So why is everybody, including Brian Hoyer, keep wanting to get drafted, want to sit him off? And we need a backup. I know it's about we got Dobbs, but I wouldn't trust Dobbs. I'd rather have Milton back there backing up May. Can anybody answer that question? I'll take it off the air.
Okay.
Thanks, fellas.
All right. Thanks, Eldred. Got to get back to
I don't
trucking.
know if anybody wants to get rid of him. I
Yeah,
just think you
I think
look at
people
him
think
as
they
a
might have value.
surplus asset that you might be able to get something significant. I don't necessarily, or we don't necessarily think you're going to get something super significant. But
Yeah, but I think people that are interested in trading Milton think they're going to get it like a second or third round pick.
Yeah, I think only they want to trade him if they get something really good.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
What is the Brian Hoyer? Did I miss Brian
He
Hoyer?
must have said something on a podcast.
Oh,
Or
okay.
something like that.
you can't trade that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would keep him because if you think that there's might be some potential there, then you hold on to him and you have him as a cheap backup, and then.
Will this be the most anticipated preseason in Patriots' recent history?
No, last year was. You had the third overall pick, and you couldn't wait to see him play.
Yeah.
Right?
I know this was gonna be cool too. I'm
But
ready for the
what if
Joe
he
Milton
what if he had
experience.
a really good preseason?
Joe Milton.
Yeah.
They might try to trade him.
That's what
You
I'm
might be
saying.
able to have might be able to pump his value.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Mark's in Connecticut. What's up, Mark?
Paul, I hope you had a good vacation.
I did.
I
Thank
missed
you.
last week.
I know the whole show did.
I need you or any of you guys to answer this question. We're talking, half an inch on a guy's arm. It doesn't make any sense to me, Will Campbell. You don't block with your arms out. You block with your hands in.
No.
So what I don't understand is why is it that we're talking about a half an inch if the guy's going to play tackle or guard?
Well, that
You guys gotta
your
explain that.
premise is incorrect. When you're at the outside of the line, your reach does matter because you start that way with that initial punch. So you don't want to get the guy close in. If you're a center or guard, that's not as important. But when you're out there on that island, you do need to get your arm out and keep the distance between the rusher and you, because if they
But
get
is
close
that half
in,
inch really
then they
gonna
use
make
your
a
own
big
leverage against you.
But is that quarter to a half an inch really going to make a difference?
Well, that's the question. That's the question.
It could.
Yeah.
NFL coaches believe
Love
it
you
does.
guys.
Okay, thanks,
And
Mark.
it's not just like a quarter or a half inch. We have to keep he's below the threshold that was reset already. So it
Right.
used to be 34 inches.
Yeah.
Then they reset it to 33, and now he's even below that threshold.
Right.
So we're really talking about more like an inch or to an inch and a half of ideal arm length. Like 34 is still ideal. You just feel like you can get away with 33.
And the Dante part
Who
of
is
this.
the greatest left tackle with short arms of all time?
Well, Joe Thomas had shorter arms, and he always comes out this time of year and tries to advocate for the short arm folks.
But what does that mean, shorter?
I want to say 33 and a half. Something. He was in the 33-ish
Okay.
range.
Yeah.
But he wasn't overly long. Like he didn't have like Tyron Smith level length.
Yeah.
And he's maybe the best left tackle of all time.
Yeah, and I'd be interested in Dante, who says that this guy can play tackle, if that is accurate, what the emailer before said attributed to Dante. And that would mean a lot to me. What Dante feels. But I'm not interested in having a tackle who can play tackle with the fourth pick. I want that tackle to be a dominant tackle if I'm going to take him fourth.
Mm-hmm.
I want Trent Williams. I want a top end high. Someone brought up the fact that I think it was Randy, that we're overlooking a little bit the problems with the short arms. Look at what Joe Tooney did. Joe Tooney can clearly play tackle in the NFL. He got beaten badly in the Super Bowl, but he played at an acceptable level prior to that. But there is limitations that come with your body type, and you saw that in the Super Bowl. I don't want that with the fourth overall pick. I don't want a guy who can get by because he's good enough to get by, but he's going to get victimized from time to time because his arms are too short.
Yeah.
If I'm going to use the fourth overall pick on him.
I think all these guys have that though. If you're not getting those two top guys, you're picking from flawed options. Like Ted McMillan is not a typical top 5 receiver. Mason Graham's undersized. Will Campbell's undersized. So
That's the problem.
It's picked the lesser of the evils. Like, which one would you rather? Like, I'm with you. If Joe Thomas was in this draft, then obviously we'd be running the card up there at 4 overall. But that player doesn't exist necessarily in this draft outside of those top 2 guys. So it's just you have to pick your poison a little bit with this class of what would you rather live with.
It's not an easy choice. They're going to have to weigh, I would say, anywhere between a half dozen to a dozen guys that I think, as Evan said earlier in the show, you could talk yourself into.
Yeah. Bill in San Diego says, Paul! Exclamation
Bill!
point. Agassi won 8 majors, 4 Aussies, 2 U.S., 1 Wimbledon, 1 French, plus he won a gold medal.
I said a handful.
Sampras won 14, but no French, no gold medals. Agassi was a much more rounded player.
That's incorrect. Sampras was a vastly superior player to Agassi.
Sampras couldn't win on slower surfaces.
That's like... Sampras is a better player than Agassi. Fred, as the tennis expert, please.
Well, I think on those majors he certainly was, but he never won on clay.
So
but
what?
then again, Bjorn Borg never won the U.S. Open.
Right. So does that mean he wasn't that good? There's a lot of guys that are more suited, like, to individual surfaces.
But I feel like if you can't win on clay, Paul, then you're just, how good are you?
I think it's the opposite.
I'm just kidding.
I think clay is the neutralizer.
anomaly, yeah.
I think because
slippery.
Sampras was so much better, the clay slowed him down.
Yeah.
And he had a hard time. I think winning on grass or like the hard course is more impressive than clay. Now, they're all great. I mean, I'm not, like Rafael Nadal won how many Frenches?
1 million.
Like
approximately.
He's one of the handful of greatest tennis players ever. 5 maybe, and he won how many clay? How many on French?
Tons.
Yeah.
He was the king.
Like
of
10, right?
Yeah, but he also won at the U.S. Open.
Right.
And,
I feel like Sampras was a far better player than I think Agassi was a lot of flash.
Oh no,
there was a lot of flash. He was good. No, he was good.
He was
I think Sampras is one of the all-time greats.
Agassi was one of the best returners ever. Ever.
I just don't think he was as good as Sampras. Doesn't mean
I'm not saying
I don't think that means he stinks.
But don't say he was flash.
He was about flash.
Oh, why? Because he had a wig. He wore a wig.
He wore a wig and he had high-profile.
Oh, sure.
Marriages.
Back then, he was a little. He's turned his life around.
I like
Agassi.
You gotta have that with tennis players. You gotta have some pizzazz.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Sure.
That's why Roger Federer. Like awesome player.
I was like Fred. I liked Borg.
Better.
I didn't need flash.
Was he in Anything Less Would Be Uncivilized? Was that an Agassi ad? What was Agassi's big ads he used to do?
Agassi's big ads? He probably had something.
I'm thinking of Charles.
But he had a lot of them.
I
think he had like a commercial.
He and Steffi Graf have been married for a long time.
Yeah, he was with Brooke Shields before that.
Those kids made it.
He played some tennis.
Agassi and Steffi.
Yeah, they've been married for a while. They actually do pickleball now.
Yeah.
I know you probably don't watch it.
I don't like that at all.
You don't like the pickleball.
Imagine Agassi just crushing it in pickleball.
Well, they play against other former there was
McEnroe. I think.
Make like a
yeah,
bigger. It's just
I think
it's so annoying though to watch Andre Agassi just kind of you can't really
what
wail
are you talking
it.
about?
You can't wail it
They
anymore.
smash it at each other.
No,
you ever watch pickleball?
Agassi had the big, top
he's talking
spin
about
forehand.
he's talking about pickleball.
I know, but he's playing pickleball now.
But they smash it at each other.
They
do, but the ball it slows it
the
down.
ball doesn't go as fast, but they smash it at each other.
Oh yeah.
Fred's disgust for pickleball is just
no,
you
it's
can't
very.
even
That's
listen.
why I threw him under the bus
when
on that.
You watch the good. It can be a fast game. It's very quick. Hand-eye reaction.
Bill, you're right about Agassi. He was great too. I just think Sampras was a better player.
That's fine.
And I think it was not really close.
Yeah.
14-8 to me is not close.
Yeah. That's fine.
Brady
That's
Mahomes.
almost doubled them up.
No, that's close.
No, it's definitely not close.
More like Brady Manning, not close.
Game for Paul. Given that Paul said that he wouldn't pick Matt Light at number 4, even given his solid career with the Patriots, which of these players would Paul pick at number? Oh, I just had a gyro.
Gyro.
Let me be your gyro.
I might need a bib. Which of these players would Paul pick at number 4, knowing their career path? The caveat is that you either pick them at 4 or you lose them. Ty Law.
I'd take Tyler at 4.
Rodney Harrison.
Take Rodney Harrison at 4, but a little biasness there. Not gonna lie, favorite guy
All
ever.
right. Vince Wilfork.
No.
Logan Mankins.
No.
Gronk.
Yeah. Yes.
McCourty.
No.
Wes Welker.
No.
And lastly, Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
1.
First overall.
Take him at 1.
Okay.
That's a great.
I'm pretty lockstep with you on those ones.
That's a great game.
Yeah.
That's a great game. Obviously, I would take all of those guys They were all fantastic draft picks.
But a fourth overall, you can get another nose tackle. You can find a slot receiver.
He left one off there going in the Wayback Machine, who I actually think was chosen with the 4th overall selection, John Hanna.
Different game back then.
Different game back then.
A lot of running.
Correct
A lot of
answer. Always cover your bets.
A lot of running.
260-pound guard.
Right.
But I.
Skinless
keep
chicken
saying
too.
the same thing.
Yeah, but see, I think if Hannah was
you got to adjust to this draft. Like Matt Light at 4 overall in this draft might not be a bad pick.
Right. And which is exposing me for being a little bit Paul stubborn and not necessarily taking that into consideration.
Yeah.
You guys are probably right. The emailer clearly had an opinion. I think Evan, same thing. Yeah, I probably would have to take Matt Light at 4 in this draft.
Right. In this draft.
Right. So I was probably a little bit rash with that.
Jake in Melbourne, Australia, 12 months on and knowing what we know about the top 3 quarterbacks from last year's draft, who would each of the PU crew take if starting their own team?
Jaden Daniels.
Think his upside's more than Drake May?
Yep.
You do?
Yeah.
You don't think we've seen what we're going to see out of Jaden Daniels? In other words,
I mean, I
how
don't
much
know.
better is he going to get?
I think he'll get better as he gets experience.
But even if he doesn't,
it
one
was
game away from the Super
a ridiculously high level.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was along for the ride.
No.
It wasn't like a Mac Jones in 21, where he was handing the ball off and throwing 3-yard passes.
You could make a case he was a top 5 quarterback in the league as a rookie, which is crazy.
He was a large part of the reason that they were winning.
Nicholas from Oslo, Norway. If the Patriots sign Tyron Smith to a 1-year contract and kick the can down the road on left tackle, do next year's prospects look better than this year's?
Oh, boy.
It's always tough to do that. It's, you have a whole another college football season to go, so I couldn't say definitively. I know it's supposed to be a little bit of a better receiver class next year, but not by much. Really, the receiver class everybody's waiting for is 2 years from now when Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams come out. So
the two like 17-year-old freshmen.
Yeah, so I think it's too soon to tell.
What do we think of Tyron Smith?
I like him for
I
1
wanted
year.
him last year.
Yeah, I like him for 1 year.
Yep.
Didn't everybody tell me he refused to talk to them last year?
I don't know.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Rumors.
I didn't hear that.
We signed him this year.
But I like him this year, but, it's not my money, and they have a lot of it, but I wouldn't go over $12 million for him. And I heard he's looking for like 18 maybe.
Just the going rate.
So just to play devil's advocate, what would your rationale be for not wanting to give him $6 more million?
Locker room culture. We're paying him so much, and then we're gonna.
Is that a lot?
He's gonna practice 2 days a week, and all
but is that
stuff.
a lot?
I don't know.
$18 million for a starting left tackle?
Well, he's probably not going to play every game. You know that.
Okay. Well, what if he plays 14 games?
Then I'd have to maybe reconsider
like
that.
Morgan Moses.
Yeah, I think Morgan Moses is more durable.
It's probably fair.
Yeah.
I think at this stage of your career, you're probably not expecting 17 games out of either one of those guys.
I think you need to manage both, but Tyron Smith, he's been breaking down.
Absolutely. You're right.
Yeah.
But I would take him.
And I love, how much I love Tyron Smith.
I know you do. I would take him in a blink. I would have taken him last year. I think they made a mistake not going after him last year. And didn't he only get like $15 million last year?
Yeah, a lot of his deal last year was incentive laden based off of how many games he played, that sort of stuff. So.
Okay.
If he's willing to do that.
I like the emailer's plan.
If he's willing to do an incentive-laden contract, let's go.
Well, I just would give him the money. They have the money. What are we saving it for?
That might be the only thing that's left for him. If he had a contract that was full of guaranteed money, I'm sure he would be signed already.
Yeah.
I would take him.
You want to talk about prototypical
My guess is he
tackle.
wants to go to a contender.
He's the guy.
I would take him in a blink.
He was made in a lab. Gary from Harvard, the town, not the school. For anyone who wants to see any pick trade, I have a question. Should the Patriots propose it before the draft starts or wait to see if anyone offers a better haul once the Patriots are on the clock? Obviously, trading down early risks missing out on a blue chip if 2 quarterbacks go in the top 3, but there are risks in waiting, too. All desirable players are gone, so no one wants to trade, and best partners do some other trades that disables this one. So he's talking about strategy. When do you trade picks? What's the best time?
I think you got to wait with Carter and Hunter potentially. Even it's out there that they might fall. I think you got to wait to see.
Yeah, I would agree with Mike. I mean, I think in general terms, the teams have an idea of what's going to happen. that we don't know. They have intel on that.
Well, they've all been talking already, right? Like,
And I would think that you get the groundwork for a trade done ahead of time, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it until
One of the most
you're on the
hated
clock.
callers is on the line. Christian from L.A. What's up,
Polarizing.
Christian?
I know, right?
Christian?
How did I become the guy that people want to respond to directly? Like the jabroni last week. Oh, hit it with a hammer until it breaks. You know, what's going on, guys?
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, so here's the thing. Me and my friend were talking yesterday, and we said if we took the Patriots teams that at least made the NFC Championship and we put together a tournament of just those teams, which team do you guys think would come out top? And you can't obviously say the undefeated team. Besides the undefeated team, which team, if we bracketed all the Patriots teams that made the AFC Championship, which team do you guys think would come on top?
Why can't you pick the undefeated team?
You can pick any team you want, right?
Well, okay.
Oh,
so
four.
let's play.
Are you asking who I think the best team was that
Yeah.
they ever had? Is 2004, in my opinion.
Well, it's not so much about the best team sometimes, right? It's about the team that would win the game based on styles. Like some teams we have more
2004.
offensive power. Like
04 could win anyway.
Any way
they
that
could
you wanted
beat
to
you
play,
with
they
more
would
points,
beat
and they could beat you with defense.
They beat you with yours and
They were
his,
well
his and
rounded,
your
like
and
like
your and
Andre
his and-
Agassi. They were well rounded.
but not as good as Pete Sampras.
I'm
Not as
biased,
good as
uh,
07.
I would take.
Oh, they were better than 07.
Pete Sampras was better than 07.
The 04 team?
Agassi.
Yeah, better
Right.
than 07.
Okay.
Yep.
So Pete Sampras
Who's
is
on
the
first?
04 team.
I got you.
Who's the 01 team?
Who's the 01 team?
They're in the play-in tournament with the 18 team.
Yeah.
There you go.
But so just so you guys know,
why
you
people
can't
hate
say
him.
that Sampras is directly better than Agassi just because of record. Like we all know, people viewed Aaron Rodgers as the best quarterback basically ever mechanically and skill-wise, although Tom Brady is the best because he has the most championships, right?
No, I think Brady's a better player. Like, and all
not a
those
better
things that you're talking about count. And when you're categorizing a player, how they play in the clutch, how they come from behind, how they lead their teams,
Yeah.
that all counts.
Yeah.
And Brady's better than Rodgers in all those regards.
Yeah.
Now, and if you want to say best passer,
Right.
then you might have an argument that Rodgers is the best pure passer.
Now
of
you're
the
talking
ball.
about like Rodgers and Marino.
Right. They might throw the ball physically
Right.
better than Brady,
Jeff George.
but they're not better quarterbacks than Brady. I don't think a lot of people think Rodgers is a better quarterback than
You
Brady.
ever see Jeff George throw?
Oh.
Could throw to him.
Good looking ball downfield.
Seriously.
Joe Milton-esque.
Yeah.
Unbelievable
Joe
arm.
Milton, baby, that's
Jeff,
my guy.
Jeff George.
I
That's
would.
why I have a consensus, guys.
All right.
You guys think
Thanks, Christian.
I would
All
take
right,
the
we got to go.
2014 Patriots.
It's 2:01. All
There's
right.
an argument for that.
I'd
Yeah.
say 24.
Thanks everyone for listening today, watching. Catch 22 tomorrow at noon.
We're going to revisit this tournament on Thursday.
What tournament?
This Patriots tournament that Christian just came up with.
All right.
Yeah.
And relating it to tennis or no?
Maybe.
Okay.
Agassi was better
Than the tournament.
than Sampras.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk about that on Thursday, maybe. See you then.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.